One night at Prince Yu's mansion, things went from 0 to 100 real quick. Princess Yan An went full-on demonic, sporting fangs and trying to choke the life out of her personal maids. Internally, the maids were probably thinking, I definitely didn't sign up for this in the job description. Just as things got lethal, a priest showed up and blasted her with lightning charms to shut her down. The princess collapsed, looking like she'd just survived a total nightmare. Prince Yu's heir, Yan An Cheng, watched the whole mess with a serious case of the jitters. The priest dropped a bombshell. The princess was cursed, and they only had 5 days to find the root cause before she reached a point of no return. Knowing the government was too slow to find a lost cat, let alone a magical cure, An Cheng decided to play a wild card. He headed straight for Tianxi prison to find the legend locked away in cell number 1. This wasn't just any prisoner. It was Luo Xiao, a guy so smart he topped the national rankings but somehow ended up behind bars. The guards were shaking in their boots, warning An Cheng not to look the guy in the eye unless he wanted his heart and mind bewitched. An Cheng walked in and found a silver-haired dude just lounging like he was at a 5-star resort. Internally, An Cheng was totally blindsided. How is this guy prettier than most of the ladies at court? This is unfair. An Cheng tried to play it cool in civilian clothes to hide his status, but Luo Xiao wasn't buying it for a second. Without even standing up, the prisoner started reading him like an open book. He clocked An Cheng's royal features, his untrimmed hair at the temples, and the specific calluses on his palms from swordplay. Before An Cheng could even get a word out, Luo Xiao correctly guessed he was the prince's heir, Yan An Cheng. Internally, An Cheng was sweating buckets. Okay, this guy is definitely hacking the system or reading my mind. An Cheng finally spilled the tea. The prime minister's daughter, Zhao Surong, was dead, and his sister was the only witness who had now turned into a traumatized wreck. An Cheng offered the ultimate prize, a special imperial pardon that would make him a free man. Most people would have jumped for joy, but Luo Xiao just gave him a smug look. He claimed he actually liked the prison life because it was peaceful and free of royal drama. However, he admitted he was getting a bit bored lately and wouldn't mind some outdoor activities. An Cheng agreed and turned around to call the guards to unlock the heavy chains. Internally, he thought, finally a bit of progress. But when he turned back, the cell was already empty and Luo Xiao was standing right next to him. The guy had mastered the mechanisms of the prison ages ago and had been sneaking out to visit crime scenes whenever he felt like it. They hauled it over to the horse-drinking mound where the incident actually happened. A junior official tried to give them a long-winded report about the carriage and the suburbs, but Luo Xiao wasn't interested in the boring details. He started poking around the grass and inspecting the dirt with a stick like he was looking for a lost coin. An Cheng watched the guy's natural elegance and wondered if he'd just hired a genius or a complete lunatic. Suddenly, Luo Xiao peeked out of the carriage and announced he'd already figured out exactly what happened. An Cheng's jaw practically hit the dirt. Internally, he scoffed. It's been 5 seconds, buddy. You haven't even looked at the body yet. But as they stood there, An Cheng realized his life was about to get a whole lot more chaotic because of this peculiar detective. Luo Xiao stepped up to the crime scene and offered to reenact the whole tragedy for the group. He pointed out the exact tree where the assassin hid before pulling a pro-gamer move and jumping onto the palanquin roof. He explained how the killer stabbed through the curtain, but the first hit actually missed and slammed into the back wall. Yan An Cheng was totally blindsided, wondering why there was only one hole if there were 2 stabs. Luo Xiao basically called him a casual, explaining the killer just pulled the blade back halfway for the second lethal thrust. The scribe was busy taking notes like his life depended on it. After checking the bloodstains, Luo Xiao dropped a logic bomb by claiming the killer wasn't even aiming for the victim. Since the first stab was dead center, the assassin clearly thought there was only one person inside, making the prime minister's second wife the actual target. Yan An Cheng realized his sister and Zhao Surong were just caught in the crossfire of someone else's beef. Internally, Luo Xiao rolled his eyes at the prince's slow realization. He then laid out a full profile, describing a 6'3" tall, left-handed powerhouse with a gimpy right foot. He explained that the height of the curtain hole and the specific sword marks made the killer's identity as a lefty obvious. Even the depth of the footprints gave away the foot injury, proving Luo Xiao was playing 4D chess, while everyone else was playing checkers. Yan An Cheng was actually impressed for once, and Luo Xiao gave him a backhanded compliment for not being totally brain-dead. The prince immediately dispatched his man to dig up dirt on the second wife's enemies. Meanwhile, at the palace, the crown prince heard about the prisoner's progress and found the whole situation way too interesting for comfort. Next, the duo rolled up to the prime minister's mansion to pay their respects, which was really just a cover for some illegal investigation vibes. Luo Xiao knew he had to see the body, but Yan An Cheng warned him that touching the deceased was a one-way ticket to a reputation scandal. Luo Xiao just told him to handle the distraction, and the prince definitely delivered. Yan An Cheng launched into a world-class fake sobbing performance that would make a soap opera star jealous. Internally, Luo Xiao was dying at the cringe, but he used the chaos to sneak over to the coffin. While the prince was busy wailing like a lost puppy and hugging the coffin, Luo Xiao quickly inspected the late Miss Zhu. He noticed her clothes had been changed to hide the evidence, but he still found what he needed. He signaled that he was done, and Yan An Cheng flipped his sadness switch off instantly, leaving the grieving parents totally confused. Back in the safety of their carriage, Luo Xiao dropped the real tea by revealing the wound on the girl shouldn't have been fatal. Something was definitely fishy because she died on the spot from a non-lethal injury. To make things even more sus, Luo Xiao pointed out that the victim was left-handed, just like the supposed assassin. He started digging into Yan An Cheng's past, asking why he didn't marry his childhood sweetheart if they were so close. Then Luo Xiao turned up the heat, suggesting that if he wanted to stop a political marriage, he'd just use his own sister to stage a murder. Yan An Cheng snapped and grabbed him by the collar, but Luo Xiao just stared back with a smug grin. Internally, he knew he'd poked the bear, but it was worth it to see the prince finally lose his cool. Yan An Cheng sat in his carriage and tried to act like a saint, claiming he would never hurt innocent people, especially not his own sister. Luo Xiao just smirked and basically told him to cut the act because he wasn't buying the devoted brother routine for a second. Internally, Luo Xiao scoffed at how much of a drama queen the prince was being. They finally arrived at Prince Yu's mansion, but the atmosphere was anything but welcoming. Meanwhile, back at the Crown Prince's palace, the big boss was casually feeding his bird while listening to reports. He was totally fascinated by the weird partnership between a prince and a high-profile prisoner. He wondered just how long this little alliance would last before someone got stabbed in the back. He figured they were both just using each other for their own agendas. Over at Princess Yan An's residence, things were going south fast. The princess was in the middle of a massive tantrum, screaming at her servants to kick out the useless Taoist priest she'd hired. She threw a ritual censer out the door, nearly taking his head off in the process. One of the priests ran away like his life depended on it, looking like a total clown. Luo Xiao arrived just in time to watch the chaos and casually picked up the rolling censer. The moment Ange saw her brother, she did a complete 180 and switched into fragile victim mode. She started crying about how those deceitful priests couldn't even ward off a single ghost, let alone help her. An Cheng tried to comfort her, telling her he'd found a real expert to solve her nightmare problem. He introduced Luo Xiao as the genius from the intelligence rankings, and Ange was suddenly very interested. She looked at Luo Xiao and thought he's way too handsome to be a common prisoner. Luo Xiao felt her staring and internally rolled his eyes, thinking he was only there because the mansion probably had better food than his jail cell. They all moved to the tea room where Ange started recounting the day of the attack. She explained that they had borrowed a palanquin from the Prime Minister's second wife to stay undercover during a spring outing. Everything was fine until they heard a loud crash and the whole carriage went down. Ange claimed she peeked out and saw a stone tablet, but before she could call for help, a sword lunged through the curtain. She described how she watched her friend Shirong get stabbed right in the gut. According to her, the sight of all that blood was so traumatic that she fainted on the spot. Since being rescued, she'd been stuck in a loop of terrifying nightmares, where she saw Shirong covered in gore. She mentioned that a mysterious expert saved her during the initial madness, but then vanished without a trace. Internally, Luo Xiao was taking notes and thinking that her story had more holes than a piece of Swiss cheese. As they sat drinking tea, Luo Xiao noticed something very specific. Ange was handling her teacup and handkerchief exclusively with her left hand. He casually dropped a massive bomb by asking her if she was left-handed, which made her freeze up instantly. Her face went pale as if she'd been totally blindsided by the question. An Cheng jumped in to defend her, saying she was definitely right-handed and always had been. Ange quickly recovered and lied through her teeth, claiming she'd injured her right wrist while thrashing around in a nightmare. Luo didn't say much at the table, but once he was walking through the garden with An Cheng, he laid it all out. He told the prince that people who only occasionally use their left hand don't have the natural movement habits Ange was showing. He also pointed out a huge contradiction in her story about the blood. Ange claimed Shirong was covered in it, but Luo Xiao knew for a fact the crime scene showed no signs of heavy bleeding. The biggest red flag was the ritual runes Luo Xiao had spotted in her yard. He explained to the shocked prince that those weren't meant for salvation or saving a soul. They were actually designed for a ritual to seal a living soul away so it could never speak again. An Cheng was in total denial, insisting that his sister was just willful and not evil by nature. Luo Xiao just gave him a look that said he needed to stop being such a simp for his family and trust the actual genius in the room. Before they could argue more, a guard rushed up to report that they'd found a prime suspect named Liu Shun. Liu Shun was a former guard from the PM's mansion who had been kicked out after a run-in with the second wife. He had a motive for revenge and fit the physical profile of the assassin perfectly. An Cheng wanted to wait until morning to interrogate him, but Luo Xiao wasn't having it. He warned the prince that if they didn't hurry up, his sister would be a goner within 5 days. They headed down to the government prison to confront Liu Shun, who was chained up and acting like a tough guy. He claimed he'd never even been near the murder site and told them they couldn't force a confession out of him. Luo Xiao didn't even break a sweat and pointed out a nasty, red rash on the guy's neck. He identified it as a sting from a mama walker larvae, a pest only found in the specific forest where the murder happened. Luo Xiao decided to play a little psychological game and told the guy that the sting was actually a deadly poison. He lied and said that if someone drinks alcohol after being stung, the poison spreads and kills them in 7 days. Since Liu Shun was drunk when they caught him, he started panicking and crying like a baby. He immediately folded and agreed to tell them everything if Luo Xiao gave him the cure. An Cheng stood there looking totally stunned, realizing that Luo Xiao's psychological persuasion techniques were on a completely different level. Liu Shun started his sob story by explaining how he went from a loyal bodyguard to a penniless drunk after being framed for embezzlement by a thievish second wife. After getting beaten and kicked out with a disabled leg, he spent his days wandering the streets and drowning his sorrows in alcohol. Internally, he probably realized that revenge was the only thing left on his to-do list. He eventually spotted the second lady's palanquin and felt the sudden urge to end her life. The prince wasn't impressed by the personal beef and scolded him for trying to kill an innocent person over a grudge. Liu Shun panicked, claiming that something totally bizarre happened right before the murder. He explained that a manhwa walker larva had stung him, but he ignored it to carry out his plan. Just as he jumped in front of the palanquin, he heard a lady's voice from inside and hesitated. That's when the poison finally kicked in, making his mind go completely blank. When he finally came to his senses, the lady inside was already dead, and he was so blindsided that he just bolted for home. Liu Shun wept behind the bars, insisting that the victim had always been kind to him and he would never have intentionally hurt her. Luo Xiao realized that if the guy wasn't lying, they had a brand new mystery on their hands. The prince ordered a public hearing for the next day, but Luo Xiao decided to play doctor first. He sat down and wrote out a prescription for some medicine to stabilize the suspect's health. Liu Shun treated the paper like a holy relic, crying about how Luo Xiao was his literal savior. Later that night, a black cat with glowing eyes watched from the rooftops as the duo walked through the courtyard. The prince asked if the prescription was just a bluff, but Luo Xiao admitted the poison from those larvae isn't even fatal. He'd basically handed the guy some basic anti-inflammatory powder and called it a day. The prince then confessed that growing up in a power struggle meant he had to learn about toxicology the hard way. He still didn't want to doubt his sister Ange, despite all the weird signs pointing her way. Luo Xiao leaned in close, asking the prince if he believed in ghosts, which was a total vibe killer. Suddenly, the black cat lunged from the shadows with a vicious hiss. The prince reacted instantly, shielding Luo Xiao and pinning him against a wall in a classic, in distress, pose. While they were busy having a moment, word arrived that the princess was falling ill again. Princess Ange appeared, looking like she was straight out of a horror movie with red energy swirling around her. The cat continued to hiss as the prince pulled out a yellow talisman he'd prepared specifically for this mess. He leaped through the air and slapped the paper onto her forehead, causing her to faint instantly. After the drama settled, he told Luo Xiao to head back to his room, leaving the genius feeling pretty annoyed. Luo Xiao stared at the cat, wondering if the feline was the real mastermind here. The next day at the government office, the judge kicked off the hearing by announcing that the princess was too unconscious to testify. He pointed at a bloody sword and told Liu Shun that the evidence was conclusive, so he might as well stop lying. Liu Shun kept screaming that he didn't do it, but the judge was ready to start the torture to get a confession. Internally, Luo Xiao was probably thinking that this legal system needed a serious patch update. The doors swung open as the crown prince arrived with a massive entourage, looking like he owned the place. He immediately insulted Luo Xiao, calling the world's smartest man a total imposter. He turned his sights on Yan An Cheng, accusing him of hiring an assassin to ruin his marriage and collude with the prime minister. The crown prince mocked the idea of conclusive evidence, clearly looking for a fight. Yan An Cheng stood his ground, reminding everyone that his mansion serves the country loyally and won't carry a fake stigma. He looked to Luo Xiao for backup, and the genius surprisingly agreed with the crown prince. Luo Xiao stepped forward with a smug look, announcing that the murderer was indeed someone else. The prince looked totally blindsided as the investigation took a sharp left turn. Luo Xiao stood before the court as the crown prince praised him for being the smartest man alive, though internally, Luo Xiao figured that wasn't exactly a high bar to clear in this room. He coolly explained that while Liu Shun definitely wanted Miss Zhou dead, he wasn't actually the one who finished the job. This statement totally blindsided the crown prince, who immediately felt the heat as every suspicious eye in the room turned toward him. Defensive as ever, the crown prince snapped that he didn't need to hire assassins if he wanted someone gone, while the prime minister's family just stood there sobbing. Luo Xiao ignored the drama and dropped a bombshell, demanding a second autopsy to prove his theory. The scene shifted to the prime minister's mansion where Miss Zhou's body was laid out in the spiritual hall. Luo Xiao began his examination, quickly realizing his hunch was dead on the money. He ordered all the irrelevant people to clear out so he could explain the supernatural mess they were dealing with. Once the room was quiet, he began a crash course on the art of possession and internal energy systems. He explained that a master of Taoism could treat their body like a house for the soul, moving in and out whenever they felt like it. He even threw in a flashback to a master he met as a kid, likely just to flex his backstory. Luo Xiao then pointed out the glaring physical evidence that the regular docs missed. Even though it had been 3 days, Miss Zhou's body was still soft, her eyes were clear, and she had a creepy little smile on her face. Internally, he scoffed at how nobody noticed these classic ghost pilot symptoms earlier. He then connected the dots back to Liu Shun's confession about hearing the princess cry right before the murder. Luo Xiao revealed the ultimate twist, Miss Zhou didn't die by suicide or murder in the traditional sense. Her soul had hopped out of her own body, possessed Liu Shan to do the dirty work, and effectively killed herself from the outside. The Prime Minister called the whole thing preposterous, claiming his daughter was just a normal girl who didn't know magic. Luo Xiao didn't blink, stating that if they wanted the real answers, they needed to ask the victim herself. He hinted that there was another unknown victim in this case, sending a chill through the room. Meanwhile, in a different part of the palace, a mysterious woman inhabiting Princess Angie's body let out a chilling laugh. She had set a trap and successfully snagged a black cat, preparing to finish it off with a golden hairpin. Just as she was about to strike, Prince An Cheng and Luo Xiao appeared, catching her red-handed. An Cheng didn't hold back, calling her out as Miss Zhou and demanding she drop the act. The woman tried to play the victim, crying and claiming to be the real Princess Ange while begging her brother for help. Luo Xiao dropped the final reveal, explaining that the black cat she was trying to kill was actually the real soul of Princess Ange. Internally, he was amazed she thought this soap opera performance would actually work. An Cheng revealed he wasn't an idiot and had personally visited the crime scene to check the sightlines. He pointed out that from where Ange was sitting, she couldn't have seen the horse drinking mound, yet this fake Ange had described it perfectly. The only person who had that specific view was Miss Zhou, meaning the girl standing before them was a total fraud. Realizing the jig was up, the possessed Ange dropped the innocent act and went full psycho, laughing like a villain who just lost her last marble. She lunged forward with supernatural speed, and while the guards rushed to protect the crown prince, she pulled a pro-gamer move and targeted Luo Xiao instead. She grabbed him by the throat with strength that definitely didn't belong to a princess, threatening to peel his gorgeous face off. An Cheng's eyes glowed with a dangerous red light as he saw his favorite genius in trouble. He let out a low, terrifying warning, telling the possessor that if she dared to harm a hair on Luo Xiao's head, her life was officially forfeit. Miss Zhou stood her ground, using Ange's body to hold Luo Xiao hostage while demanding An Cheng choose between his sister and the boy. On a nearby roof, an old man and his apprentice watched the drama unfold, like they were binging a top-tier historical K-drama. The old man dropped a massive lore bomb, revealing that Wu Xiao wasn't just some penniless prisoner. He was the reincarnation of the immortal Yuliwo. Internally, the apprentice was probably wondering why the pretty ones always have a secret tier identity. Then came the flashback lore dump. Back in the day, the immortal Yulo had endured imprisonment just to purify a possessed dark lord named Cheng Yan. After 49 days of compassionate preaching, he actually succeeded, helping the devil reach nirvana and become an emperor. However, the process trashed Yuliwa's spiritual power, forcing him to endure 7 generations of reincarnation to stay alive. Before Yulo left, the Dark Emperor placed a seal of bond on his forehead that acted like a supernatural emergency signal. Back in the present, the seal on Luo Xiao's head started thumping like a strobe light. An Cheng's eyes glowed a lethal red as the Dark Emperor's divine consciousness officially took the wheel. He looked at Miss Zhou like she was a literal bug and told her to be gone, unleashing a massive energy wave that blasted her soul straight out of Ange's body. Ange's physical form hit the pavement hard, and Luo Xiao was finally free from being a human shield. The crown prince and the guards were totally blindsided by the sudden magical fireworks, looking like they'd stumbled into the wrong genre. The possessed An Cheng grabbed Miss Zhou's lingering soul and told her she was a total nobody. Meanwhile, Luo Xiao started feeling sick as the suppressed memories of his past life began to leak into his brain like a corrupted file. He stared at the glowing prince and asked who he was, but the deep-seated connection was already making his head spin. Up on the roof, the old man decided the show was over and pulled out a magical mirror to do some cleanup work. He performed a massive AoE memory wipe, erasing the supernatural spectacle from everyone's minds because witnesses are bad for business. Suddenly, the crowd was standing around scratching their heads, wondering what they were doing there. Luo Xiao and a chibi-fied An Cheng sat on the ground, both feeling like they'd just woken up from a heavy nap. Luo Xiao tried to piece together why he was a hostage 5 minutes ago, but his memory was a total 404 error. Ange finally woke up in her own body and called for a brother, while the black cat that previously held her soul was officially confirmed dead. The royal family shared a touching reunion, even though they were all missing a significant chunk of their recent memory. Meanwhile, Miss Zhou woke up in her original body, which was definitely supposed to be a corpse by now. She realized her soul-swapping cheat codes had been revoked, and she was officially stuck in her own skin. A servant walked in, saw the dead lady sitting up in her coffin, and immediately dropped her apples in a fit of pure terror. It didn't take long for the authorities to catch up, and soon Miss Zhou was dragged to a courtroom to answer for her illegal residency in other people's bodies. Facing a judge and a sign that preached fairness and integrity, Miss Zhou didn't even bother acting innocent. The crown prince asked her why she'd betray Ange, especially since they were supposed to be as close as sisters. Miss Zhou went full villain monologue mode, complaining about her miserable life as a prime minister's daughter. Apparently, she was forced to be perfect, couldn't wear what she liked, and was forbidden from eating durian. To top it off, she was forced to marry the notorious crown prince instead of An Cheng, the man she actually loved. The crown prince was clearly offended by the notorious label, but Miss Zhou was on a roll. She explained that she used a guy named Luo Xiao to kill her original body, just so she could hijack Ange's and get closer to An Cheng. She claimed she didn't mean to hurt Ange at first, but the shock of seeing a suicide made the princess's soul pop out like a toaster. Once she was inside Ange's head, she saw all the love and care An Cheng gave his sister and became consumed by jealousy. She even hired Taoist priests to seal Ange's soul away permanently because she was tired of sharing the spotlight. Ange tried to be the bigger person and asked who taught her such high-level, soul-breaking sorcery in the first place. Miss Ju gave a cryptic smile and insisted her teacher was a good person, which is a massive red flag in any cultivation story. Just as she was about to spill more tea, a spear came flying through the air with lethal intent. Someone was clearly trying to silence the witness before she could name names. One day, Princess Yan An tried to warn her friend, but a well-aimed arrow from the rooftop silenced Miss Zhou forever. The guards were totally blindsided as the assassin vanished into thin air, leaving the court in absolute shambles. Shirong clutched her chest, bleeding out while Ange begged her to name the person who had pulled the strings. Internally, Luo Xiao scoffed at the cliché timing. Of course, the witness gets sniped right before the big reveal. Shirong refused to talk, claiming the culprits were way above the law and that speaking out would put her family in the crosshairs. She died with a sense of relief, leaving the main cast with a mountain of unanswered questions and zero leads. To keep the appalling truth from leaking to the public, the government buried Shirong as the crown princess and pretended everything was fine. Everyone in the city mourned the loss of a beautiful lady, completely unaware of the supernatural soul-swapping drama that had just gone down. Ange wasn't buying the official story for a second, especially when she learned the Emperor wanted to shut down the investigation entirely. Since she was back in her original body, the big boss decided there was no reason to keep digging into the mess. Ange fumed in the carriage, unable to believe the corruption was this blatant. Luo Xiao, meanwhile, was hyper-focused on a yellow leaf he had picked up from the crime scene. He realized these specific trees didn't even grow near the government buildings, meaning the assassin had brought a literal trail with them. Ange felt like she recognized the leaf's color, but her brain was still buffering from her time spent as a cat. The carriage finally pulled up to Prince Yu's mansion, but a welcoming committee of Imperial guards was already waiting. Commander Guanwang stepped forward and dropped a bombshell. Luo Xiao was under arrest for making untrue statements in court. Before anyone could argue, they hauled him off to the palace for a one-on-one with the Emperor. Prince Yu followed along, desperate to protect his favorite divine tool from a death sentence. Inside the hall, Emperor Yan Yiguang was casually doing yoga stretches while discussing Luo Xiao's fate. He revealed that the Prime Minister and the Governor had already resigned to protect their reputations, effectively erasing any evidence of the incident. The Emperor looked Luo Xiao in the eye and basically told him that the truth didn't matter as much as his own survival. He claimed that since the high-ranking officials denied any supernatural events, Luo Xiao was officially a liar. However, the Emperor wasn't about to waste a talented guy, so he offered a deal: serve the country as an official or go to jail for knowing too many royal secrets. Prince Yu didn't even give Luo Xiao a chance to refuse, covering his mouth and accepting the job offer on his behalf. Internally, Luo Xiao was fuming. This kid just signed me up for a 9 to 5 without even asking. Once they were cleared to leave, they headed back home where a worried Ange was waiting for them. She was thrilled to hear that Luo Xiao would be living with them permanently, mostly because she wanted a new tutor for her homework. Luo Xiao didn't share her enthusiasm and spent the evening brooding in his room at Yudu Zhai. Prince Yu eventually showed up with a late-night snack, trying to smooth things over with a plate of oranges and sweet dumplings. He launched into a sickeningly sweet analogy about oranges protecting the dumplings, even if it meant getting cut into pieces. Luo Xiao immediately called him out for the cringeworthy dialogue, and the prince admitted he had gotten the script from Ange. The mood shifted instantly when Luo Xiao cornered him, demanding to know the truth about who really rescued him during the hostage crisis. Prince Yu looked totally cornered as Luo Xiao leaned in, proving that their partnership was going to be anything but peaceful. Luo Xiao and An Cheng sat down for a tense heart-to-heart where An Cheng was sweating buckets. He admitted that his memories of the day he rescued Luo Xiao were a total blur, which honestly sounded like a convenient excuse. Luo Xiao didn't buy it for a second and pointed out that An Cheng's story about where he was standing didn't even match the facts. Internally, Luo Xiao rolled his eyes. This guy is a prince, but he's a terrible liar. An Cheng finally realized that something was seriously wrong with his own mind, admitting that he'd been acting like a completely different person. They shifted focus to the actual conspiracy while Luo casually snacked on some lemon slices. He laid out 3 major red flags: who guided An Cheng to the rescue, who taught the assassin the soul possession trick, and how exactly the souls swapped back. An Cheng admitted he'd been stripped of his authority to investigate, but Luo Xiao had a backup plan. He brought up the Qiangxian Pavilion, a neutral intelligence network that basically knew everyone's dirty laundry across 3 kingdoms. An Cheng agreed to settle things in the capital and then head to Jiangnan with him. Internally, Luo Xiao scoffed, as if he'd actually wait for a high-profile prince to slow him down. The next morning, An Cheng woke up to a total ruckus and found out he'd been totally blindsided. Luo Xiao had already ditched him, leaving behind a note saying he was heading to Jiangnan alone because his contact hated rich and powerful people. An Cheng immediately ordered his horse and went into full pursuit mode through the forest. He eventually caught up, but he didn't try to stop the departure. Instead, he handed Luo Xiao a personal family token to use in case of emergencies. Luo Xiao accepted it, claiming his new government status would keep him safe anyway. They parted ways, but the narrator teased that their next encounter was going to be a complete disaster. 2 months later, the scene shifted to Sinshu town in Jiangnan. The word on the street was that the emperor was heading to Kishan to offer sacrifices and grant amnesty to the world. An Cheng was put in charge of the security for the Holy Heaven Oracle, a job that basically painted a giant target on his back. While this was happening, a legendary thief named Yi Feizhen was introduced, ranked first on the elegant thief list. An Cheng arrived at the Banyan Temple on Qi Mountain to inspect the ritual grounds, which were crawling with masked performers and guards. The head priest mentioned that An Cheng's friend had already arrived a few days prior. An Cheng spotted a white-haired figure in the distance and felt his heart skip a beat. It was Luo Xiao, looking as ethereal as ever. Luo Xiao teased him about being forgotten after 3 months of silence, and An Cheng was so happy he could barely speak. Suddenly, Luo Xiao pulled him into a massive hug, which was totally out of character, but An Cheng wasn't complaining. Internally, he was probably thinking, finally, some progress. However, a guard named Quan interrupted the moment, and the mysterious Luo Xiao vanished into thin air the second An Cheng looked away. An Cheng wandered through the temple grounds feeling completely confused until he found the real Luo Xiao chilling in a gazebo. This Luo Xiao had better clothes and a much saltier attitude. When An Cheng asked when he'd changed outfits, the real Luo Xiao looked at him like he'd lost his mind. He revealed that he'd just arrived and certainly hadn't been hugging anyone. An Cheng realized he'd been played and checked his belt, only to find his precious jade pendant had been swiped. Luo Xiao wasn't even surprised that An Cheng got fooled by Yi Feizhen's gold-tier disguise skills. He explained that the thief was likely after the Holy Heaven Oracle kept in the Buddhist library. An Cheng tried to act tough, claiming nobody could get in without his specific token. But then he looked down and realized the thief had swapped his token for a piece of junk. Luo Xiao mocked him for dropping his guard, just because someone looked like him. Internally, he sighed. This man is a security nightmare. Seeing a chance for some chaos, Luo Xiao decided they should have some fun catching the thief who dared to use his face for a scam. Luo Xiao dropped a total bombshell when he explained that the precious Holy Heaven Oracle, sitting in the Buddhist library, was actually a complete knockoff. An Cheng didn't waste a single second and hauled it over to the library. But the guards there looked at him like he'd lost his mind since they were positive he had just walked inside. Internally, An Cheng probably wanted to facepalm at the fact that his security was so easy to bypass. He burst into the room only to find every single security mechanism trashed and the fake book completely missing. The guards were totally blindsided by the theft, claiming that absolutely no one had left the building since the prince entered. An Cheng ordered a full-blown search of the premises, but they only managed to find a pile of discarded clothes used for the impersonation. Luo Xiao kept his cool and asked if every guard on duty was actually accounted for. Just then, a temple official arrived on the scene and confirmed that the stolen book was indeed just a sacrificial decoy meant to trick intruders. He pulled out the legitimate Holy Heaven Oracle and handed it over to An Cheng for safekeeping. Luo Xiao was likely thinking that the legendary thief was going to be pretty tilted when he realized he'd stolen a prop from a high-stakes play. However, he warned An Cheng that the thief still had the stolen security tokens, which was a massive red flag for the upcoming ritual. Later that night, 2 guards named Zhang San and Lai were finishing their shift when Zhang San suddenly claimed he had a major bathroom emergency. While the guard scurried off to deal with his business, Luo Xiao was busy moon-gazing on a roof with a bottle in his hand like a total main character. He spotted a guard approaching and immediately called out the thief Yi Feizhen by name. The thief tried to play dumb and act like a loyal soldier, but Luo Xiao wasn't buying the act for a second. He pointed out that the real Zhang San had never even been introduced to him, so there was no way a random guard would know to call him Sir Luo. Realizing the jig was up, Yi Feizhen peeled off his mask and admitted he'd been totally read by his old friend. Luo Xiao proceeded to explain the thief's entire galaxy brain play. He had entered disguised as the prince, wrecked the room, changed into a guard outfit, and simply blended into the search party. The ultimate giveaway was a tiny detail about a belt, as the real guard had just replaced his old leather one with silk, but the thief was still rocking the outdated cow-eyed version. Instead of calling for backup, Luo Xiao offered a shady deal to the legendary criminal. He promised to convince the emperor to use the real oracle during the actual ceremony to give the thief one more shot at the prize. In exchange, the thief had to return Luo Xiao's stolen clothes and the imperial security tokens immediately. Yi Feizhen couldn't help but tease him, suggesting that An Cheng would be incredibly jealous if he knew how much effort Luo Xiao was putting in to save his reputation. The thief agreed to the terms and vanished into the night with a flourish. Shortly after, An Cheng found Luo Xiao and expressed his worry, though Luo Xiao just played it off like he was enjoying the moonlight. When they finally returned to their quarters, they found the stolen items sitting right there on the table. Luo Xiao was genuinely impressed that the guy managed to return the goods that quickly. He started explaining his master plan to use the real book as bait to catch the thief during the ceremony. Suddenly, a lampstand nearby started to fall, and An Cheng lunged forward to pull Luo Xiao out of harm's way. They both tumbled to the ground, ending up in a very suggestive and compromising position. Internally, Luo Xiao was probably wondering why they were suddenly trapped in a cliché romance trope in the middle of a heist investigation. Right at that peak awkward moment, a guard burst in to report some bad news and got a front-row seat to the princely PDA. The guard looked like he was about to have a heart attack, realizing he just walked into what looked like a massive royal scandal. One day, a massive landslide hit the eastern roads of the mountain, completely blocking the path for the imperial procession. Yan An Cheng stood there, looking totally blindsided because the emperor was scheduled to arrive the very next morning. While the guards scrambled to figure out a cleanup plan, Luo Xiao did some quick detective work and realized the rocks smelled like a fresh explosion. Internally, he sighed, thinking that some people really needed a more subtle hobby than domestic terrorism. Since the main road was a total bust, An Cheng decided to lead his team through the liming forest at the back of the mountain to rearrange security. He handed a command token to Luo Xiao and prepared to head out into the night, even though the forest was a notorious death trap, where people vanished faster than a paycheck on rent day. Luo Xiao stayed behind at the library to dig through some scrolls, but he couldn't shake the feeling that he had missed a major red flag. He realized that the legendary thief Yi Fizhen probably spent months setting up this specific trap. Suddenly, it clicked in his brain that the liming forest wasn't just a dense woods, but a giant psychedelic feng shui array designed to drive soldiers insane. He shouted for a horse and went full speed toward the forest, knowing that An Cheng was walking straight into a hallucination-filled nightmare. Inside the forest, An Cheng and his troops were already surrounded by dreamless trees, which were basically nature's version of toxic gas. The trees released a poisonous pollen that forced people to see their worst miseries or deepest desires until they started killing each other. Luo Xiao arrived just in time to find one of the troops' markers, but the pollen hit him almost instantly. He started seeing a wild hallucination where he was chained up and confronted by a demonic, red-horned version of An Cheng. This illusionary demon demanded Luo Xiao's heart's blood and acted like a total obsessive stalker. Internally, Luo Xiao scoffed at his own subconscious. Of all the things to dream about, my brain chose a kinky demon prince. He thought bitterly. The illusion felt incredibly real as the demon An Cheng pinned him down and started draining his energy. Luo Xiao struggled to maintain his grip on reality, reminding himself that he didn't belong to anyone, especially not a hallucination. He realized that the only way out was to find the sorrow-free grass, a rare plant that acted as a natural detox for the forest's poison. According to the legends, only someone with a pure heart could even see the grass, which was a pretty high bar for someone in his line of work. He managed to crawl through the dirt and spot the glowing weed, stuffing it into his mouth to break the spell. The demonic vision shattered instantly, leaving Luo Xiao gasping on the forest floor. He didn't have time to celebrate his sobriety, because he heard screaming nearby. He rushed deeper into the woods and found a total massacre. The guards had succumbed to the pollen and slaughtered one another in a fit of delusional rage. He eventually spotted An Cheng, but the prince was far from okay. An Cheng's eyes were glowing a demonic red, and he was currently busy stabbing his own men who were trying to help him. When Luo Xiao tried to intervene, An Cheng completely snapped and slammed him into the ground, pinning his throat with a murderous grip. An Cheng was totally gone, lost in a world of violent hallucinations where everyone looked like an enemy. He even cut down a remaining guard who tried to approach, proving he was in a full-on berserker state. Luo Xiao realized that An Cheng was too far gone to eat the antidote grass on his own. Since the prince was currently trying to strangle him, Luo Xiao decided to take the most practical, albeit scandalous, approach available. He chewed up the sorrow-free grass into a paste and pulled the delusional prince down for a forced medicinal kiss. It was the only way to transfer the antidote and save the man from his own mind, even if it meant giving the local gossips enough material to last a century. Luo Xiao pulled away from the most awkward medicinal kiss in history while grabbing a handful of dirt to ground himself. He and An Cheng were sprawled out in a field of flowers that looked way too peaceful for a place that had just hosted a total bloodbath. Luo Xiao asked the prince how he was feeling, and An Cheng could only mumble about being completely dizzy. Internally, Luo Xiao sighed. Save a prince, get a permanent headache. Night fell, and they relocated to a nearby cave where Luo Xiao got a fire crackling. An Cheng finally blinked his eyes open, looking like a lost puppy in expensive silk. Luo Xiao told him to stay put since he had just finished dressing his wounds. An Cheng asked where they were, and Luo Xiao explained they were officially out of that psychedelic forest, but had to wait for dawn. An Cheng had a vague memory of enemy troops, but Luo Xiao shut that down fast, calling it a flower-induced illusion. Luo Xiao didn't mention his own hallucination, which involved a much more aggressive, chained-up version of the prince. He figured some secrets were better left unshared unless he wanted to make things even weirder. An Cheng told Luo Xiao to take a turn resting since he was apparently good at martial arts and could keep watch. Luo Xiao didn't hold back, reminding the prince that dragging his heavy self into the cave was basically a full-body workout. Suddenly, An Cheng got hit with a major case of the uselessness blues. He lamented about how he was supposed to be the protector, but ended up being the one saved. Luo Xiao looked at him and told him to get a grip. He pointed out that even when An Cheng was losing his mind, he chose to stab his sword into the ground rather than accidentally slaughtering his own men. In Luo Xiao's book, that made him a truly strong person, which made An Cheng wonder if he was actually as cool as the investigator thought. Luo Xiao finally passed out, leaving An Cheng to watch over him. But the silence didn't last long because Yi Feizhen decided to spawn in like a random encounter boss. The thief stood there with his fan, acting like he hadn't just sabotaged an entire imperial procession. He admitted he had added some special incense to the fire to make sure Luo Xiao stayed in dreamland. An Cheng wasn't having it and immediately went on the offensive because nobody messes with his favorite investigator's nap time. They traded blows in the moonlight, and Yi Feizhen teased that he had stolen the Chengping token just to lure Luo Xiao into the trap. An Cheng demanded to know if the thief was behind the mountain explosion too. Yi Feizhen claimed innocence, pinning that particular disaster on the Crown Prince's goons. Then the thief started spitting facts, calling out An Cheng for being a total fake. He claimed the prince had been hiding his real strength since he was a kid just to play the knave card. Yi Feizhen went even further, accusing An Cheng of pretending to be poisoned just to stage a true love moment with Luo Xiao. Internally, An Cheng probably wanted to delete this guy's life. He pulled a hidden knife and sliced the thief's fan, telling him to shut his mouth before he lost more than just his accessory. Yi Feizhen just smirked, dropping a cryptic hint about who actually gave Luo Xiao the clothes he was currently wearing. The thief vanished into the night, leaving An Cheng to simmer in his own secrets. He walked back into the cave and looked at the sleeping Luo Xiao, trying to play it cool despite being totally exposed. The next morning, Luo Xiao woke up to find An Cheng hovering over him and touching his clothes, blushing like a total amateur. An Cheng claimed he was just trying to take them off to wash them. Luo Xiao just stared at him, probably thinking, "Sure, buddy, and I am the Queen of England." An Cheng looked at Luo Xiao's fancy new threads and realized the guy hadn't spent a single penny since arriving in the area. He demanded to know where the expensive outfit came from, and Xiao lamely claimed it was just a gift from a friend. Internally, Xiao was sweating bullets because the friend was actually a mysterious woman from a secret meeting. They decided to ditch the cave and head down the mountain to meet the emperor, with An Cheng firing off a flare to signal the imperial guards like a total show-off. As they walked through the bamboo forest, Xiao's mind drifted back to a flashback from 2 months ago in Sinshu town. He remembered a beautiful red-haired lady handing him those exact silver-embroidered clothes as a test product for her supposed new shop. Xiao wasn't born yesterday and knew that perfection itself was usually a massive red flag, but he accepted the bribe anyway to keep his cover. Back in the present, he noticed some bloodstains on the sleeve and felt a bit protective over the high-quality fabric. They eventually stumbled upon a water source, and An Cheng went into full mother hen mode, insisting that Xiao wash his face. Xiao tried to play it cool and declined the help, but An Cheng got way too handsy and started pulling at his clothes. There was a loud rip as An Cheng accidentally tore the precious sleeve right off the garment. Xiao was absolutely fuming, and An Cheng started panicking, promising to buy him 10 more sets just to avoid getting murdered on the spot. The bickering stopped instantly when Xiao realized they had been walking in circles for way too long. He realized they were totally trapped in an immortal trap array designed to confuse the senses. The sound of a zither began to echo through the wilderness, played by a legendary nerd named Gong Yu. This guy was the world's #1 strategist, and Xiao knew he was an arrogant elitist who only moved for high-stakes deals. Xiao concluded that the Holy Heaven Oracle was the prize and that someone had hired this human calculator to take them out. Suddenly, massive projectiles started flying at them out of nowhere like heat-seeking missiles. An Cheng drew his sword and went into bodyguard mode, smashing the rocks before they could make them flat. Xiao realized Gong Yu was using a crack skill to turn ordinary stones into soldiers to do his dirty work. While dodging the debris, Xiao accidentally revealed he knew too much by blaming the Crown Prince for orchestrating the hit. An Cheng caught the slip-up immediately and demanded to know how Xiao was so well-informed. Xiao just played the lucky guesser card, hoping An Cheng wouldn't realize he was dealing with a professional investigator. The zither music shifted again, and a swarm of poisonous bees was summoned to finish the job. An Cheng didn't even blink before using his own body as a human shield to protect Xiao from the swarm. Xiao spotted some jatropha fruits on the ground and realized he could use them as a DIY smoke bomb to drive the insects away. He quickly torched the fruits, creating a massive cloud of smoke that sent the bees packing. They grabbed hands and bolted out of the trap as fast as their legs could carry them. Once they cleared the area, Xiao collapsed as the poison from a stray sting started wrecking his system. An Cheng didn't waste a second and pulled out a small blade to slice his own palm open. He told Xiao to drink his blood because it apparently functioned as a universal neutralizer for toxins. Xiao took the cure while his head was spinning, wondering what kind of secret monster he was actually traveling with. An Cheng finally dropped the act and revealed his true identity, while trying to force-feed his blood to a feverish Xiao. Xiao wasn't buying the sudden hero routine and accused him of faking his own poisoning previously. Internally, Xiao was fuming that his supposed partner was actually a deceitful hypocrite. An Cheng didn't have time for a debate and pinned Xiao down, shoving his blood-covered fingers into the investigator's mouth to neutralize the toxin. Xiao coughed violently as the medicine went down, feeling totally blindsided by the aggressive treatment. Once the poison cleared, Xiao immediately lunged at An Cheng and pinned him to the ground with a sharp hair stick. An Cheng didn't even flinch, explaining that his blood was a universal antitoxin, because he had been used as a human lab rat for poisons since he was a kid. He told Xiao to just kill him if he still didn't trust him. Xiao eventually backed off and dropped the weapon, but he issued a cold warning. Internally, he realized that if An Cheng ever turned out to be an evil hypocrite, their friendship would be over in a heartbeat. Despite the murder attempt, the two made a pact and shook hands as the tension simmered down. Suddenly, a signal flare from the Imperial Guards exploded in the sky, signaling that help was finally arriving. An Cheng started casually fixing Xiao's messy hair, as if they weren't just at each other's throats. Xiao just sat there and let him, probably wondering why his savior had suddenly decided to become his personal stylist. As they waited, Xiao laid out his investigation results, proving the Crown Prince was the mastermind behind the chaos. He had traced rare leaves found at a crime scene back to the trees in the Crown Prince's private palace. The prince had been recruiting underground organizations and even using prohibited picture books to fund his illegal operations. Gong Yu, the legendary strategist, was just another piece in his long-term plan to seize power during the ceremony. Their subordinate Quan finally arrived with a group of soldiers, crying happy tears because he thought they were dead. However, the good news ended there because the Crown Prince's personal soldiers had already seized the mountain. They were framing An Cheng's family for failing to protect the area, claiming the repeated incidents were proof of their incompetence. Internally, Xiao realized they were walking straight into a political death trap. The Crown Prince himself appeared shortly after, looking smugly satisfied with his power play. He officially introduced Gong Yu as his personal strategist from the Qiangxian court. Xiao lost his cool and drew his sword, accusing the prince of the mountain ambush. The prince just smirked and told them they couldn't make accusations without proof. An Cheng had to hold Xiao back, knowing there was no point in arguing with a villain who came this prepared. The Crown Prince mocked their blossoming relationship after spending a night alone in the woods together. He warned An Cheng that explaining the security failure to the Emperor would be his next big problem. Later, at a stage station at the foot of the mountain, the Emperor heard the report while doing some casual stretching. He decided the best way to settle the dispute was a competition to see who was actually the most intelligent man. The challenge was simple. Whoever caught the elusive thief, Yi Feijian, first would be declared the winner. Gong Yu and Xiao exchanged intense glares, both ready to prove who the real alpha strategist was. Later that evening, An Cheng expressed his concern for Xiao's safety during the upcoming contest. Xiao brushed him off, though internally he was starting to feel like An Cheng's mysterious secrets were the biggest danger of all. Xiao eventually retreated to a hot bath to brood over the day's insanity. He wondered if everything that happened in the Liming Forest had just been an elaborate illusion. He was desperate for An Cheng to finally tell him the truth about his past. Suddenly, a loud thud echoed through the room, and Xiao looked up, startled to find someone lurking in the shadows. An Cheng walked into the room carrying a tray of fresh threads for Xiao and acted like he was doing her a huge favor. Xiao immediately caught him in a lie when she asked about her old clothes, which he claimed were ruined beyond repair. Xiao scoffed at the obvious gaslighting, knowing full well he'd been looking for an excuse to toss her old gear for weeks. Internally, she sighed. This guy really thinks he's subtle. The tension spiked when An Cheng realized her old clothes were a gift from the legendary beauty Su Jingxian. He turned into a total green-eyed monster, demanding to know if the tailor was Xiao's type. He even pointed out that the new clothes Xiao was currently wearing were made by the same woman. In a fit of petty jealousy, An Cheng started untying his own robe right in front of her. Xiao was totally blindsided, asking what on earth he was doing in the middle of the room. He basically told her that if she was going to obsess over clothes from other people, he'd just stop wearing them altogether. Internally, she rolled her eyes. Talk about a dramatic power move just to get some attention. When she tried to kick him out so she could actually get some sleep, An Cheng dropped a major bombshell. He claimed the Emperor and his guards had hogged every single room in the station, leaving them with 0 vacancies. He then leaned in and had the audacity to ask if she preferred sleeping on the top or the bottom. Xiao froze, her brain short-circuiting at the blatant suggestion. Before things could get any more scandalous, a loud cough echoed from outside the door. The Emperor himself was standing right there, having caught the two of them in a very compromising position. The old man didn't even look mad, just amused at how energetic the youth were these days. He told them to keep it down and save their strength for the massive ceremony the next morning. An Cheng looked like he wanted to curl up and die from the embarrassment. Xiao, on the other hand, found the whole awkward encounter surprisingly interesting. The next day, the August 15th ceremony kicked off with a massive display of traditional performances. The air was filled with the sound of drums and the sight of dancers wearing creepy blue masks. Some of the performers were doing high-level fire-breathing tricks that had the crowd cheering. Gong Yu started nerding out, explaining the technical kinkyang method of using rosin powder to create huge flames. An Cheng tried to pull Xiao aside to talk about the awkwardness of the previous night, but she shut him down instantly. She wasn't about to let a little bedroom drama distract her from the mission. The show took a dark turn when a performer dressed as the Lord of Thunder struck a ghost actor with a bolt of lightning. The ghost hit the ground hard and didn't move an inch, causing a ripple of confusion through the audience. People started whispering, wondering if the actor was actually dead or just really committed to the bit. Suddenly, the sacred Holy Heaven Oracle scroll on the altar spontaneously combusted into a ball of fire. The Thunder God performer started screaming that the Mountain God was outraged and was taking back the Oracle. The panic was immediate as the crowd realized this wasn't part of the script. An Cheng didn't hesitate and drew his sword to try and save the burning document. He managed to knock the box away, but it was too late to save the sacred scroll from turning into ash. When Xiao and An Cheng looked closer, they realized the ghost actor who had fallen earlier had completely vanished. The crowd was convinced it was a supernatural event, but Xiao knew a setup when she saw one. Just then, the Crown Prince Yan An arrived on the scene to play the hero and take control. He immediately appointed his own man, Gong Yu, to lead the investigation into the fire. He didn't miss the chance to insult Xiao, calling her incompetent and a total waste of time. He basically told her to stay in her lane and let the real professionals handle the case. An Cheng's face darkened as he watched the prince act like he owned the place. In a moment of pure spite, An Cheng stepped forward and crushed the remains of the burned oracle under his boot. He looked the prince right in the eye and apologized with zero sincerity, claiming he didn't mean to do it. Internally, Xiao gave him a thumbs up. If you're going to be a jerk, you might as well deal with a prince who's even pettier. The crown prince was absolutely fuming, accusing Yan An Cheng of being a total sellout for trying to cover for Yi Feijian. An Cheng didn't even care, literally mocking his brother with a face that screamed "Stay mad." Xiao just stood there watching the royal circus, probably wondering why he even bothered showing up to work today. The emperor finally reached his limit and stepped in, asking why everyone was acting like toddlers in public. An Cheng tried to play the victim card immediately, claiming the crown prince shoved him onto the scroll evidence on purpose. Internally, he scoffed. "If I'm going down for ruining the evidence, I'm taking your dignity with me, bro." The crown prince called him a stupid bastard for fighting his own people during a crisis, but Gong Yu decided to play the smartest guy in the room. He told everyone to pipe down because he had already figured out the supernatural trickery behind the fire. He explained that the scroll was a total fake, soaked in a white phosphorus solution. Once the water evaporated and it hit the air, the whole thing spontaneously combusted, like a cheap magic trick. This meant the ghost actor was just a flashy decoy used to swap the real Holy Heaven Oracle while everyone was distracted. Xiao acted like he already knew this, which only made the crown prince more annoyed. The emperor lost his patience and yelled that finding the ghost and the real oracle were the only things that mattered. Gong Yu promised he had a foolproof plan to force the actor out of hiding. Xiao and An Cheng walked off together, with An Cheng feeling totally blindsided by how cunning Gong Yu was acting. Xiao wasn't stressed at all, casually asking An Cheng to go grab him some wine like they weren't in the middle of a national security disaster. An Cheng couldn't believe he was in the mood for a drink, but Xiao just teased him about whether he really wanted to help him or the fugitive actor. Xiao leaned in close and told An Cheng to keep their secret weapon under wraps, leaving the prince totally flustered. Meanwhile, the guards started checking the identities of everyone on the mountain like a group of strict club promoters. Gong Yu oversaw the operation, but seeing Xiao again sent him spiraling into a flashback from 7 years ago. Back then, Gong Yu was a struggling disciple trying to learn a celestial melody from his master under a tree. Tiny Xiao was just a random kid napping in the branches above them, looking like an absolute professional slacker. The master played the song once, and while Gong Yu was struggling, Xiao memorized the entire thing perfectly. Xiaoyin offered to play it again so Gong Yu could stop being bad and let him sleep in peace. Gong Yu was completely stunned by the kid's genius and asked for his name. Xiao introduced himself but told Gong Yu not to bother remembering it since they'd probably never meet again. Back in the present, Gong Yu looked at the grown-up Xiao with a mix of pity and nostalgia. He thought it was a tragedy that the uninhibited genius from the tree had fallen into the messy world of the rich and noble. He warned Xiao that if he wasn't careful, he was going to lose his heart in this political minefield. Xiao probably thought, "Look in the mirror, buddy. You're the one working for the East Palace." An Cheng interrupted the brooding session, showing up with 30-year-old wine and a plate of mooncakes for the Mid-Autumn Festival. He was in full simp mode, hand-feeding Xiao a mooncake with osmanthus filling while ignoring everyone else. Gong Yu watched them from a distance, sighing about how people always fall too deep in love and ignore the danger they're in. He thought Xiao was just a meddler who was #1 on the list of people he shouldn't trust. Xiao noticed the tension but didn't let it ruin his snack time, knowing his relationship with An Cheng was solid. As the guards forced the 13 suspicious people to rinse their mouths and spit into bowls to find the ghost, Xiao dropped a massive truth bomb. He revealed that he had actually investigated Yi Feijian's background long before they even met. He told An Cheng that the person who truly wanted the Holy Heaven Oracle wasn't the actor at all. The real mastermind pulling the strings behind the scenes was An Cheng's own elder brother, Yan An. An Cheng looked totally blindsided as the realization hit him that the threat was coming from inside the family. Xiao just watched him, wondering if the prince was actually ready to handle the betrayal of a sibling. Xiao cornered Yan An Cheng and demanded to know what else the prince was hiding from him. He pointed out that as the head of security, An Cheng not only knew the suspect but actively let him escape in the forest. Xiao was basically asking if he needed to report this massive security breach to the higher-ups. An Cheng didn't even blink, instead hitting back with the fact that Xiao was covering for Yi Feixian's fake identity. Internally, Xiao felt like a total clown for actually worrying about this guy's safety earlier. An Cheng leaned in uncomfortably close, acting like they were just two besties looking out for each other. Xiao wasn't buying it, thinking the prince was a much better actor than his traitorous brother. When An Cheng mentioned last night, Xiao's brain immediately went to a dark place. He flashed back to the previous evening when the prince played the I'm royalty card to avoid sleeping on the cold floor. Xiao had tried to be a good host, but the prince wouldn't stop talking until they were both in the same bed. Xiao ended up wrapped up like a stressed-out burrito while the prince made himself right at home. Back in the present, Xiao told him to behave himself, still fuming over the distraction An Cheng caused to help the thief. Meanwhile, Gong Yu was busy running a high-stakes science experiment in front of the entire court. He had a line of suspects rinsing their mouths into bowls to find the ghost, who performed the fire trick. A soy sauce delivery guy named Liu Dadan was shaking like he'd seen a real ghost. Gong Yu explained that the fire-breathing stunt required rosin powder, which has very specific chemical properties. It stays solid in cold water, but turns hot water murky, which is exactly what happened in Dadan's bowl. Dadan tried to claim it was just wax powder from a soy sauce jar, but Gong Yu was already 3 steps ahead. He knew rosin was completely soluble in alcohol, which would be the ultimate proof. The emperor was ready to wrap this up, but realized they were at a dry ceremony with 0 booze. An Cheng suddenly appeared with a jar of 30-year-old Ganoderma wine he'd snagged from a nearby temple. Xiao watched from the sidelines, internally calling Gong Yu a clumsy sidekick compared to his own investigative skills. Gong Yu poured the expensive wine into the bowl, and the residue dissolved instantly. Dadan realized his career as a fake ghost was officially over and dropped to his knees. He started wailing about his innocence, claiming he was just a guy looking for a quick payday. He admitted a mysterious figure hired him to play a trick, but he never even saw the guy's face. Xiao realized they were dealing with a professional who knew exactly how to use decoys. The emperor was absolutely livid that he and his ministers had been stuck on a mountain all day for a puppet show. He ordered the guards to drag Dadan away for a brutal interrogation and put a massive target on Yi Feixian's back. Gong Yu looked like he was about to have a midlife crisis after hitting another dead end. He knew the court was losing patience and his reputation was on the line. He turned to the grumpy emperor and promised he had one last, desperate plan to track down the notorious thief. Xiao stood by, waiting to see if this new plan was actually going to work, or if they were all just walking into another trap. Gong Yu explained that the master thief Yi Feixian was a bit too obsessed with his skincare routine. He used an expensive product that left a faint scent only a trained blue flame butterfly could track. Internally, Gong Yu rolled his eyes. Imagine being caught because you wanted to avoid wrinkles while committing high treason. The butterfly fluttered through the crowd of shocked officials and landed right on the emperor's back. Gong Yu didn't hesitate and called out the man for pretending to be the ruler. The fake emperor tried to laugh it off as a joke, but the vibe in the room shifted instantly. Xiao realized that the real emperor must have been swapped out while he was training alone the previous night. She had smelled a strange scent back then, but didn't realize Gong Yu was already 2 steps ahead with his bug-tracking tech. The fake emperor decided he had seen enough and tried to make a break for it. An Cheng blocked his path and called him a brat for thinking he could fool them. The thief wasn't going down easy and threw several smoke bombs to create a chaotic getaway. Xiao watched the explosion and realized the crown prince shouldn't let this guy escape. But Xiao had a massive surprise of her own. She pulled out a scroll and revealed that the Holy Heaven Oracle the thief stole was actually a fake. The real one had been with her the entire time because she got the emperor's approval to swap it ages ago. Internally, she smirked at An Cheng's shocked face. "I'm not just a pretty face, buddy." While everyone was distracted by the fake scroll reveal, Xiao heard a noise and lunged into the air. She pinned a figure to the ground, finally capturing the real Yi Feixian. Xiao demanded to know where the real emperor was hiding. The thief claimed that when he broke into the room last night, the emperor had already been kidnapped by someone else. He just took the opportunity to play dress-up and steal the scroll. Suddenly, a massive explosion rocked the mountain and trapped everyone in the area. A new figure emerged from the smoke, laughing like a classic villain. This old man claimed he was the one behind everything and expressed disappointment that Xiao and An Cheng survived the forest. Gong Yu stepped forward and revealed this man wasn't the real Taoist Su Heng. He deduced that the real Taoist must have been replaced while they were busy chasing the thief. The man ripped off his mask to reveal he was actually Xu Du. He was a former disciple who was kicked out of the temple years ago for being a corrupt creep. The emperor had branded his face as a mark of shame, and now he was back for some heavy-duty revenge. Xu Du activated a dark art of soul possession, turning all the surrounding guards into red-eyed puppets. Gong Yu warned that the place was about to become a living hell. An Cheng immediately ducked behind Gong Yu and demanded protection like a total coward. Internally, Xiao sighed. Of course, the prince is using the strategist as a human shield. Gong Yu sat down and started playing a magical zither to counter the dark energy. The possessed guards began slaughtering the innocent officials and citizens trapped on the mountain. Xiao watched the carnage in horror as the mountain became a literal bloodbath. An Cheng finally decided to stop playing the victim and drew his sword. His eyes glowed with a terrifying red light as he prepared to slaughter the sorcerers. Xiao watched him go full beast mode and realized things were about to get very messy. Internally, she prepared herself for the fight. If we survive this, I'm definitely asking for a raise. An Cheng swung his blade to protect Xiao from the possessed guards as the mountain battle reached a fever pitch. Everyone sensed a massive shift in the air, wondering if the Dark Emperor's consciousness was finally waking up to join the party. Internally, she rolled her eyes. Seriously, can we go 1 week without a world-ending possession? Xu Du realized his puppet guards weren't enough, so he pulled out his ultimate trump card, the real, very much kidnapped emperor. He held the old man by the throat and gave the group a nasty ultimatum. They had to choose between handing over the Holy Heaven Oracle or watching the king get a permanent neck adjustment. The crown prince looked totally blindsided, but instead of being a hero, he started acting like a legalistic jerk. He claimed the oracle was too important to the country's destiny to give up for just one life. He even suggested the hostage might be a fake just to avoid making a hard choice. Internally, she scoffed. Nice try, buddy. We all know you just want the throne and a dead dad. The crown prince even started thinking about how he could use the oracle to proclaim himself the new ruler if the king happened to bite the dust. Xu Du was officially done with the talking and prepared to massacre the whole group right then and there. Suddenly, Xiao's forehead mark started glowing like a high-intensity neon sign. She clutched her head in pain and accidentally dropped the Holy Heaven Oracle scroll. The scroll rolled open across the ground just as the moon hit its highest point in the sky. It didn't just sit there. It projected a massive, glowing star map into the air that left everyone absolutely floored. A mysterious sage appeared and used a magical brush of judgment to finish the celestial drawing. This wasn't some random treasure map for penniless explorers. It was the path to the divine world known as the Zyming Heaven Stairs. Apparently, the Dark Emperor originally designed this divine GPS because he was worried his partner would lose their immortality after reincarnating. He split the map into 4 pieces and hid them across the world to keep them away from the wrong hands. One of those pieces had been hiding in plain sight inside the oracle this whole time, acting as a sacrificial vessel for the country. The secret was timed to reveal itself during the first Mid-Autumn Festival after An Cheng and Xiao finally met. Internally, she sighed. Of course, it's a 1,000-year-old complicated long-con love story. Xu Du wasn't about to let a good map go to waste, and used a spiritual mirror to try and copy the coordinates. The sage decided their mission was officially accomplished and prepared to leave the chaos behind. Xiao looked at her own hands, realizing her connection to this ancient power was getting way too real. But the drama wasn't over, because Xu Du decided to turn the entire mountain into a massive fire hazard. Flames erupted everywhere, attempting to burn the entire group alive in a literal death trap. A secret passageway rumbled open in the square, offering a tiny window for an escape. The emperor was still fuming and promised to settle accounts with his traitorous son once they weren't being roasted. Internally, she groaned. Great, now we're adding barbecue to our list of problems. Yan An Cheng ordered the guards to get the emperor and the crown prince down the mountain first, while he and Xiao stayed behind to cover their tracks. Internally, he was probably thinking that babysitting the royal family was way above his pay grade. They quickly realized that Yi Feijian had already pulled a vanishing act, taking advantage of the absolute chaos to escape. Before they could even process that betrayal, a stray soldier lunged at Xiao with a dagger. Yan An Cheng stepped in to intercept, but a new player suddenly entered the chat. Standing on a ridge was Yan An, the eldest son of Prince Yu and the undisputed king of sibling rivalry. He drew his bow with a kind of cold focus that suggested he wasn't there for a family reunion. He mocked his younger brother for being indecisive and decided to help him make a choice by firing a lethal shot. An Cheng saw the arrow coming and didn't even hesitate to throw himself in front of Xiao. Xiao was totally blindsided as An Cheng took the hit directly in the shoulder. Internally, Xiao was screaming that he could have handled it, but An Cheng's hero complex was already in full swing, and he stood amidst the flames looking like a total edgelord while his brother bled out. An Cheng tried to act like it was just a flesh wound, claiming it would only bleed a little and wasn't fatal. He insisted that Xiao pull the arrow out right there in the tunnel, because waiting for a military doctor was apparently for losers. He even offered his shoulder for Xiao to bite if the pain became too much to handle. Xiao didn't waste any time and yanked the projectile out, causing An Cheng to suppress a massive groan. As Xiao examined the arrow, the realization hit him like a ton of bricks. This wasn't a random attack. The arrow belonged to An Cheng's own brother. An Cheng tried to apologize, claiming he didn't think he would actually go that far. Xiao looked at him with pure skepticism, wondering why he was still trying to cover for a guy who just tried to murder them. Meanwhile, Yan An was busy being a total nightmare to a captured Yi Feijian. He held Feijian by the throat and reminded him that their past intimacy didn't give him the right to talk back. He ranted about the secrets of the Zemming Heaven Stairs while Feijin coughed and struggled against his grip. Ain went full villain mode, telling Feijin that if he dared to disobey again, he'd kill him personally. He eventually cut the ropes holding Feijin up, but only to grab him again and pull him into a toxic embrace. He looked Feijin in the eye and dropped a truth bomb, admitting he only used him as bait to lure everyone to Key Mountain. Back in the passage, An Cheng was getting surprisingly sentimental for someone with a hole in his back. He called Xiao out for trying to draw a line between them and refusing his protection. Internally, Xiao was probably thinking that now was really not the time for a relationship check-in. An Cheng claimed he made all those shady decisions just so he could stay by Xiao's side a little longer. The drama hit a peak when An Cheng started coughing up blood, proving he was definitely not as okay as he claimed. Xiao told him to shut up and stop talking before he actually died on the floor. Xiao started tearing his own expensive robes to create a makeshift bandage for the wound. An Cheng watched him do it with a goofy, love-struck smile that was honestly kind of pathetic given the circumstances. Xiao called him an idiot for smiling while bleeding out, but he didn't stop tending to the injury. An Cheng grabbed Xiao's hand and begged him to stay with him, officially cementing his status as a high-tier drama king. An Cheng was essentially acting like he was in a mid-budget Shakespearean tragedy while bleeding out on the ground. He looked at Xiao with those puppy dog eyes and told him that he didn't care about his title or his mansion anymore. He just wanted to stay by Xiao's side and follow him wherever he went. Internally, Xiao was probably thinking this guy was a total simp, but he couldn't help blushing at the sudden confession. An Cheng went full melodrama, declaring that from now on his blood was Xiao's blood and his life was now Xiao's property. Xiao noticed something was definitely off with the prince's heart rate, but he was too flustered to give a proper medical diagnosis. Outside, the world was literally on fire as Key Mountain turned into a giant forest barbecue. Soldiers were swarming the area like it was a limited-time sale, and the narrator noted that this chaos was just the beginning for the rest of the world. Xiao managed to get the wounded prince back to the safety of the mansion, far away from the smoldering mountain. An Cheng was stuck in bed looking like a penniless invalid, but the second he woke up, he was already hunting for his favorite person. Xiao sat by the bed and held his hand, reassuring him that he was safe and sound in his own room. Suddenly, the door flew open and An Cheng's parents, Prince Yu and Princess Consort Gao, burst in like they were late for a parent-teacher conference. Xiao tried to be respectful and release An Cheng's hand to greet the royals, but An Cheng held on like his life depended on it. He wasn't about to let go of his emotional support human just because his parents were watching. An Cheng then dropped the absolute bombshell, introducing Xiao as the person he shared his life and death with. The princess consort didn't even miss a beat and immediately started shipping them, calling them a perfect match. Xiao realized right then and there that the dramatic personality was definitely genetic, and he was totally blindsided by the family's intensity. Xiao decided he needed some air and stepped out to let the family have their moment. An Cheng asked where his big brother was, and the parents hit him with the classic, "He's just busy at the farm," excuse. Internally, Xiao scoffed because the farm was a pretty pathetic cover story for a guy who just tried to commit fratricide. While wandering the garden, Xiao ran into Ange, who was looking completely stressed out. She told him that she had been having massive headaches and was starting to see weird things that nobody else believed. Xiao looked up and saw a literal blue demon frog sitting on her head like it owned the place. He realized she wasn't just being a dramatic kid. She actually had some sort of spiritual sight that was manifesting as a delusion. Xiao told her to take it easy and promised to take her to see a doctor friend named Lai Jiu once things settled down. Ange was thrilled to have a beautiful brother, who actually listened to her instead of calling her crazy. Later that night, the moon was out and Xiao was playing the role of the devoted nurse by feeding An Cheng soup. He decided it was time to get some answers and asked who Luo was, since An Cheng had been mumbling that name earlier. An Cheng immediately flipped the switch to playing dumb mode, scratching his head and claiming he was too dizzy to remember a thing. Xiao knew he was lying through his teeth, but An Cheng wasn't finished being a menace. He leaned in and told Xiao that while he forgot the name, he vividly remembered how soft Xiao's lips were during their little secret passage moment. Xiao was left standing there completely speechless while the prince continued to be an absolute flirt. An Cheng and Xiao wasted no time and headed straight to the palace to check on the emperor. The old man was looking pretty rough in bed, claiming he'd been struck down by a mysterious illness the second he grounded the crown prince. He told An Cheng that his recovery depended entirely on his nephew's compassion, which was a massive red flag for a guilt trip. An Cheng asked if a doctor had checked him out, but a guy named Taoi Suheng suddenly appeared to drop some lore. He claimed the only cure for the emperor's psychological problem was something called the Zemming Heaven Stairs. An Cheng was skeptical, wondering how a set of stairs was supposed to fix a medical issue. The Taoist explained that ever since the Key Mountain incident, the whole world knew their kingdom was basically cursed. Now every power-hungry careerist was hunting for the stairs because rumors said the first person to reach them would get godly treasures and rule all 6 kingdoms. It was basically a massive, high-stakes treasure hunt, and their kingdom was the starting zone. An Cheng pointed out that the map had only appeared for a split second, so it was impossible for anyone to have a copy. The Taoist just smirked and clapped his hands, signaling his subordinates to bring in several map fragments they'd collected from across the country. Xiao stepped up to inspect the goods, and for a second, it looked like they had the real deal. But Xiao's eyes sharpened as he realized something was off. Internally, he scoffed. Did they really think they could fool me with this bargain bin fan art? He revealed to a stunned An Cheng that he also had an eidetic memory and could remember every detail from the mountain. Xiao grabbed a brush and started roasting the scavenged maps in front of everyone. He pointed out that the mountain ranges were in the wrong spots and the labels were completely fake. These maps were clearly duds released by someone to bait and mislead the competition. Seeing his plan fall apart, the dying emperor suddenly bolted upright with the energy of a teenager. He begged Xiao to draw the correct map right then and there. Xiao wasn't about to be anyone's errand boy, though. He told the emperor that drawing the map would just turn them into a walking target for every thief in the world. Instead, he dropped a total bombshell and volunteered to find the Zemming Heaven Stairs himself. An Cheng was totally blindsided by this. Internally, he was screaming, "Wait, weren't we staying out of the royal drama? What happened to the plan, man?" The emperor didn't care about the logic. He was so hyped he started dancing and doing poses like he'd never been sick a day in his life. An Cheng watched the old man's miraculous recovery with a deadpan expression. Seriously? This guy belongs on Broadway with that level of fake fainting. The Taoists seemed equally thrilled, wishing them good luck on their upcoming quest. Later, while they were strolling through the mansion gardens, An Cheng finally cornered Xiao. He asked why the heck Xiao took the initiative to join a mission he usually wouldn't care about. Xiao plucked a flower and explained his big brain move. He knew the uncle was a manipulative snake who would have forced them into this eventually. By volunteering, they stayed ahead of the curve and made the emperor lower his guard, giving them way more room to breathe. An Cheng was genuinely impressed and told Xiao he was easily the smartest person he knew. Xiao didn't just want a compliment, though. He leaned in close, getting right into An Cheng's personal space and reaching out to toy with a lock of his hair. He told An Cheng there was something that had been bothering him for a long time. With a flirty look that had An Cheng totally flustered, Xiao confessed that being called Brother Xiao felt way too distant for how close they were becoming. He was tired of the formalities and wanted to turn up the heat on their relationship. Xiao dropped a bombshell by suggesting he might not actually be older than An Cheng. An Cheng decided to seize the opportunity and asked for Xiao's birthday, while giving him a condescending head pat. Xiao revealed he was essentially a penniless orphan found in a basket by a monk during the winter solstice. Internally, Xiao was probably thinking, great. Now he's going to treat me like a toddler just because of a calendar date. An Cheng bragged about being born during the Ghost Festival, which officially made him the senior in this relationship. He even threw in some cheesy dialogue about past lives, basically telling Xiao he couldn't imagine being born too far apart from him. Xiao invited An Cheng to visit Sinshu town, and An Cheng immediately turned into an excited puppy. However, his mood was totally blindsided when Xiao mentioned they had to bring An Cheng's eccentric little sister, Ange, along for the ride. An Cheng immediately suspected she was just pretending to be sick to trick them into a vacation. In reality, Ange was currently being haunted by creepy blue demon baby ghosts because her third eye had accidentally opened. Xiao realized this was a major death flag related to the Zemming Heaven Stairs incident and knew he had to find a way to fix her sight before things got worse. A month later, the group finally arrived at Sinshu town after a long journey by carriage and boat. While Ange was busy stuffing her face with pancakes, An Cheng and Xiao were cooped up in their private room on the boat. Ange tried to be a nosy little investigator and peeked inside to see what their big plan was, but someone launched a pillow at her head at max speed. Internally, she scoffed. Look at these two acting like they're doing serious research when they're clearly just being domestic. An Cheng and Xiao finally emerged from the room looking way too composed for people who just assaulted a princess with bedding. Xiao warned Ange to keep a low profile and avoid revealing her identity once they hit the docks. An Cheng was actually impressed by the local architecture, and Xiao flexed his knowledge about the three immortals who lived there in seclusion. One of them was apparently a total miser who spent his time counting silver in a warehouse. An Cheng started feeling a bit of jealousy seeing how many friends Xiao seemed to have all over the world. Internally, An Cheng was likely thinking, is there anyone this guy doesn't know, or am I just the local tour guide now? They stumbled upon a street game involving a Chinese 9 rings puzzle where the prize was 5 taels of silver. An Cheng offered to pay for a turn, but Xiao acted like a total pro, claiming he hadn't played a game that easy since he was 5. Ange spent several sticks of incense trying to solve it and failing miserably while the stall owner gloated. Eventually, Xiao got tired of the delay and decided to finish the job himself. He solved the entire puzzle in a split second, leaving the owner completely shook and the crowd cheering. Internally, Xiao was probably rolling his eyes thinking, I have an eidetic memory and a genius-level IQ, why are we even wasting time on this tutorial-level side quest? Just as they were celebrating their win, the peaceful vibe was ruined by a group of men carrying a stretcher and shouting for everyone to get out of the way. Xiao and An Cheng were forced to dodge the incoming traffic to avoid a collision. An Cheng told everyone to be careful, but Xiao's sharp eyes caught a glimpse of the patient on the stretcher. He sensed that something was seriously wrong with the situation, and his relaxed vacation mode was officially over. The guys carrying the stretcher screamed at everyone to get out of the way, claiming Boss Zhu was dying from a contagious epidemic. Bystanders immediately started gossiping that this was the owner of the Wuzhuang pawn shop, which had conveniently just been robbed. Xiao smelled a rat immediately and signaled An Cheng to intervene. An Cheng didn't hesitate and blocked their path with his foot, looking like he was ready to end their whole career right then and there. Internally, Xiao sighed. These guys really thought they were Oscar-level performers, didn't they? The stretcher bearers acted all offended, shouting that delaying treatment would cost a life, but Xiao wasn't having it. He pointed out the obvious flaws in their plan, like how they had zero protective gear for an epidemic, and how they were more worried about the quilt than the patient's actual pulse. Xiao realized that having 4 massive guys carry one person across the street was total overkill for a medical emergency. He reached out and yanked the cover back, revealing the big surprise underneath. It turned out Boss Zhu was perfectly fine and was actually hugging a mountain of stolen loot from his own shop. Internally, Xiao scoffed. If you're gonna pull an inside job, at least try not to be so obvious about it. Just as the crowd started shouting about the scam, Constable Wang Chuang arrived to see what the fuss was about. Xiao greeted him like an old pal, which immediately sent An Cheng into a jealous spiral. An Cheng quickly flashed his high-ranking token to assert some dominance and ordered the constable to haul the thieves away for interrogation. They all ended up at the official department where Boss Zhu finally cracked under pressure. He knelt on the floor and admitted to faking the illness and the robbery, but he claimed he had a good reason. Boss Zhu explained that he had received a challenge letter from a notorious thief named Yi Feizhen, who promised to rob him blind. Since his shop security was basically non-existent, he thought smuggling the goods out on a fake death stretcher was a genius move. Xiao and the group listened as he showed off a mysterious ghost-skilled box that apparently nobody could open. Ange was curious about the crafts, but her face suddenly went pale. She spotted a terrifying hanged ghost with a massive tongue hovering behind Boss Zhu. Internally, she panicked. I am definitely not seeing this. I am absolutely not seeing this. Xiao and An Cheng realized Ange's spiritual sight was acting up again and decided it was time to find a professional. They took their leave, with the constable offering his help whenever they needed it in Sinshu town. Xiao noticed Boss Zhu was still shaking, likely because he was still being haunted by the creepy spirit Ange saw. They eventually arrived at the Qiangxian court, a massive building famous for housing rare treasures and weirdly talented people. Internally, Xiao was impressed. This place looked expensive enough to bankrupt a small kingdom. Inside the court, everything was covered in white cloth to prepare for an upcoming autumn festival exhibition. Ange's mood flipped instantly, and she got super hyped about seeing a variety of crafts. That's when Xiaoqi, the head of the court, came flying down from the balcony to greet Xiao with a massive hug. An Cheng looked like he was about to explode from pure saltiness as Xiaoqi ignored him completely. Xiaoqi had the nerve to call An Cheng a resentful man who looked a little dumb. Internally, Xiao chuckled. Poor An Cheng was getting cooked by a guy with an abacus on his belt. Xiao tried to smooth things over by telling Xiaoqi that An Cheng was just in love, which only made things weirder for everyone involved. They decided to head upstairs to find the miracle doctor Liu Jiu, who was apparently a total shut-in. Xiaoqi led Ange away to see the doctor while Xiao and An Cheng sat down for some tea by the window. An Cheng was still fuming, asking exactly how many close friends Xiao had hidden in this town. Xiao just smiled and told him the number was basically uncountable. As Xiao explained his past connections with the constable and Xiaoqi, An Cheng's temper finally hit its limit. He slammed his hand down the table so hard that the entire room started shaking. The impact sent Xiaoqi's expensive mechanical wooden crafts, like the ghost-pushing mill, tumbling off the shelves. Xiao looked at the broken toys and then back at An Cheng's angry face. Internally, he winced. This guy was going to be so penniless after paying for those repairs. Xiaoqi burst into the room with a bright smile, apologizing for keeping everyone waiting. Internally, he probably thought his entrance was a solid 10, but the vibe in the room was awkward at best. He quickly pulled out a mechanical toy to distract them, but the head of the little wooden figure immediately popped off and hit the floor with a thud. Xiaoqi winced, explaining that Dr. Liu Jiu had broken it earlier and apologized for the technical difficulties. An Cheng looked at the decapitated toy and realized his high-stakes worries were probably for nothing since the threat was currently falling apart. Xiaoqi continued his sales pitch, explaining that the toy was officially named Money is Good, but most people called it Ghost Pushing the Mill. It only worked if you dropped enough cash into the bucket, which was basically the most relatable mechanic ever. The toy came from the Wonderful Playhouse, a childhood favorite of Xiao's that was currently struggling to stay afloat. They had recently launched a whole series of models to save the business, including the Roozy Ox and the Witching Lock. To drum up hype for a local exhibition, they even made one-to-one life-sized versions of the gadgets that were being unveiled that night. Xiao was impressed by the craft, though he likely wondered if the Playhouse was just trying to pivot into the luxury market. Shaoqi suggested they stay in town for a few more days to keep the princess under observation for her own safety. They agreed to discuss the hunt for the Ziming Heaven Stairs once they reached Yanboju later. An Cheng was just glad to see Xiao enjoying himself, even if mechanical dolls weren't usually his thing. That night, a massive crowd gathered at Kiangxing Court to check out the new exhibits under the moonlight. Kids were running around like they owned the place, begging their parents to let them play with the giant toys. One kid dropped a coin into the bucket of the life-size ghost pushing the mill, but the machine didn't budge. People started grumbling that the host was pulling a fast one and just farming their spare change for a broken exhibit. Nearby, Shaoqi was busy losing his lunch from the stress of whatever horrifying thing they had actually found. Dr. Liu stood over him, coldly telling him he should have stayed home if he couldn't handle a little chaos. An Cheng was totally blindsided by the newcomer's rudeness and demanded to know who this guy was. Xiao introduced him as the medical immortal Liu, the doctor currently taking care of Ange. An Cheng tried to be the bigger person and thanked the doc for his service, but Liu basically told him to shut up because flattery wouldn't help him find a cure. Internally, An Cheng was probably 2 seconds away from throwing hands with the arrogant doctor. Xiao had to physically hold him back, whispering that Liu and Shaoqi shared a special bond that was actually quite similar to the one between the two of them. An Cheng suddenly felt a lot better after that comparison, even if the doctor was still a total jerk. A government official arrived to report a heinous crime that was definitely going to ruin the exhibition's reputation. Xiao stepped in to assist the investigation, learning that the wonderful Playhouse crew had set up the displays between 1 and 3 in the afternoon. They had covered everything with white cloths and left for a meal, and according to witnesses, nobody had touched the exhibits until the security check at 5. To make matters worse, Boss Shu had been missing since the morning and hadn't returned home. The pawnshop employees were already being detained as the guards cordoned off the area, but the investigators were still stuck waiting for dawn to narrow down the suspects. Xiao stared at the crime scene, wondering why a killer would bother moving a body into such a public exhibition, unless it was meant as a direct warning to Kiangxing Court. He began analyzing the theme of the exhibits, which all represented different spiritual paths. The Ruzi ox stood for the path of animals with its fancy balancing internal devices. The Wucheng lock represented the path of humans, featuring a structure so complicated it could only be opened one way. The Duoan sword and Ri tree covered the paths of demigods and celestials, with the tree supposedly able to grow in salt water, including the ghost pushing the mill for the path of the starving. There were only 5 paths present in the hall. An Cheng asked about the missing piece of the puzzle, since there were supposed to be 6 paths total. Xiao looked toward the shadows with a grim expression, noting that there was one final exhibit left to find, the Path of Hell. Boss Miao, the top craftsman in Jiangnan, finally showed his face to take responsibility for the chaos. He explained that the missing Path of Hell exhibit was actually a cursed item called the Tianqian Fire. Apparently, 3 years ago, a worker accidentally set himself on fire with it and turned into a pile of human ash, making the exhibit a total taboo. Luo Xiao noted that while that might have been an accident, the current murder was definitely intentional. They examined the heavy millstone and realized it was a 300-kilogram beast that no regular person could move. This meant the killer had to be an insider who knew exactly how the hidden mechanisms worked. Internally, Luo Xiao scoffed. If you are going to commit a murder, maybe don't use a weapon that requires a specialized degree to operate. Boss Miao revealed he had actually retired years ago, and the entire 6-path series was designed by his disciple Miao Hui. She was supposedly absent to avoid the trauma of seeing her work involved in a crime, but that sounded like a massive red flag to everyone else. An Cheng whispered that maybe she was just afraid of being exposed as the killer. Miao insisted he wouldn't cover for his own people if they were guilty, which was a nice sentiment, but talk is cheap. Soon after, Constable Wang arrived and reported directly to Luo Xiao, completely ignoring the prince. An Cheng was visibly annoyed that a low-ranking official was bypassing a member of the royal family. Luo Xiao had to calm him down by pointing out that they were basically a package deal anyway. Internally, he rolled his eyes. My royal partner really can't handle not being the center of attention for 5 minutes. They decided to move Ange to a safer location at Yanboju to get her away from the drama. Luo Xiao insisted on staying behind to figure out how the murderer managed to move a body in a crowded room. An Cheng naturally refused to leave Luo Xiao's side, claiming he would go wherever his partner went. The next morning, the docks were a complete mess with people shouting and hammering everywhere. The exhibitors were tearing down their booths and packing up their stuff as fast as possible. They were citing a mutual trading agreement that let them bail early to prevent their trade secrets from being leaked. An Cheng was furious because these people were essentially destroying a fresh crime scene. Luo Xiao watched the workers and noticed how they handled the exhibits covered in white cloth. He looked at a mermaid statue, a weird mountain display, and a mechanical burner, and suddenly everything clicked. He realized he had figured out exactly how the murderer pulled off the impossible body dump. He told An Cheng they couldn't let the ships leave, so the prince went full action hero. An Cheng leaped into the air and slammed his sword into a wooden crate to get everyone's attention. He flashed his gold token as the head of the Imperial Guard, effectively putting the entire harbor on lockdown. He then accused the Donglei Corporation of being total frauds who weren't even using their own original work. Internally, Luo Xiao smirked. It is always the ones acting the most entitled who have the most to hide. The workers tried to play dumb, but Luo Xiao wasn't having it. He gathered the craftsmen and explained that the murderer was clever enough to use an illusion of impossibility. He pointed out that when everything is covered in white cloth, people only identify objects by their general outline and size. To prove his point, he started grabbing random items like the mermaid statue and parts of a burner. He rearranged them on a table and threw a white cloth over the pile. From a distance, the jumbled mess looked exactly like the silhouette of the ghost-pushing mill exhibit. He challenged the crowd to guess which of the covered shapes was the real mechanical display and which was his fake. By using multiple smaller exhibits to mimic the shape of the larger one, the killer had moved the body right under everyone's noses. Internally, Luo Xiao felt a surge of satisfaction. Imagine thinking you could outsmart a guy who literally analyzes shapes for a living. Luo Xiao laid out the truth like a pro, explaining exactly how the murderer pulled off the ultimate bait and switch. He revealed that the killer swapped the real ghost pushing the mill exhibit with a custom-built fake. This mechanical decoy allowed the culprit to handle the body parts under the guise of setting up a noisy display without raising a single eyebrow. Internally, Luo Xiao was probably wondering how a room full of experts didn't notice a literal ghost mill acting as a meat grinder. The guards were totally blindsided and asked how the body parts even cleared security. Luo Xiao pulled out the trade agreement and pointed out a massive legal loophole that the killer exploited. Organizers were strictly forbidden from dismantling the internal mechanisms of foreign exhibits, making them the perfect smuggling vessels. It was basically a golden ticket for any criminal with a little bit of engineering knowledge. Luo Xiao then moved on to the tier of mermaid, showing that it was just large enough to hide a human head. He didn't stop there, knocking on the base of a burner to reveal a hollow compartment designed for hiding limbs. The killer even had the audacity to burn the bloody wrapping paper right in the display's fire pits after the deed was done. Luo Xiao fished out a scrap of evidence from the ashes, noting that the case would have gone cold the moment the exhibits were moved. The Donglai firm representatives started sweating bullets and immediately folded under the pressure. They confessed that the exhibits weren't even their own work and that they had bought them on the black market to save their reputation. While they were busy getting wasted at a local brothel, they had hired a casual laborer named Fuda to handle the entire setup. Internally, the investigator scoffed at their bottom-tier work ethic. Luo Xiao and An Cheng quickly connect the dots between the names. This Fuda guy was the same person running a puzzle stall near the bridge where Boss Zhu's smuggling operation was originally exposed. It wasn't just a random crime. It was a calculated revenge plot. An Cheng wasted no time and ordered his men to hunt Fuda down for questioning immediately. Still, Luo Xiao felt like the puzzle was incomplete because they hadn't located the primary crime scene. He instructed the guards to scour every slaughterhouse and pig stall in the district for anything suspicious. It didn't take long for the team to hit the jackpot at a nearby pork stall where the blood refused to wash away. The butcher was in a full-blown panic because the gutter was clogged with something that definitely didn't belong to a pig. The coroner confirmed the grim discovery, holding up human ears that perfectly matched Boss Zhu's decapitated head. The butcher admitted that he had hired Fuda to watch the shop while he was away in his hometown. Fuda had total access to the professional tools and the privacy needed to turn the stall into a temporary butcher house. Internally, Luo Xiao realized Fuda was far more dangerous than a typical street vendor. Suddenly, the investigators spotted the man of the hour trying to blend into the crowd with a straw hat pulled low. Fuda realized the jig was up and bolted, weaving through the city streets like an Olympic track star. He headed straight for the Qiangxian court with a look of desperate determination. He managed to pull a fast one on the guards at the entrance by claiming he was delivering emergency evidence for Constable Wang. The guards, who clearly weren't paid enough to think for themselves, just stepped aside and let him pass. A few seconds later, the actual authorities arrived and realized they had just let the prime suspect walk right through the front door. Constable Wang was absolutely livid, screaming at his subordinates for being complete idiots. Now, the murderer was loose inside the court, and the situation had just turned into a total disaster. Yan An Cheng went full action hero and dived into the water after Fuda, resulting in a massive splash that had Luo Xiao screaming his name like a total damsel. Internally, she was probably wondering if the prince had a death wish or just really liked doing laundry. Yan An Cheng eventually hauled himself back onto the pier, soaking wet but still looking like a snack. He told everyone to calm down and ordered the guards to fish Fuda out of the drink. Unfortunately, the guards only found a massive net full of the wrecked mechanical ox and Fuda's very dead remains. Internally, Luo Xiao sighed. Great, the only guy with answers just became fish food. Constable Wang was absolutely fuming because his guards were incompetent enough to let a prime suspect commit a spectacular accidental suicide. Reporting from the scene, a guard claimed there were new leads inside Qiangxian court. The crew headed inside only to find a creepy red mark on the floor that looked like an X inside a circle. Internally, Luo Xiao scoffed. What is this? A pirate treasure map. They also found a weird poem written on a glass display case about stepping to heaven and tasting the hardships of the 6 realms. Luo Xiao translated the literal meaning, realizing the killer was basically leaving a suicide note saying he was tired of being a pawn. One of the officials suddenly had a eureka moment and to deduce that Fuda had planned to escape on a ship but died because the prince ordered the fleet to leave early. The official basically blamed the prince for the suspect's death, and Yan An Cheng looked like he was about to throw hands. Luo Xiao stepped in and pointed out that the theory was total garbage because Fuda was tied to the ox and screaming for help, not escaping. Internally, she rolled her eyes. If that was an escape plan, then she was a world-class athlete. They needed to interrogate the Donglai firm reps, but since it was a cross-border incident, they were legally stuck. Yan An Cheng tried to look cool and told them to go ahead while he handled the red tape, earning him 2 thumbs up from a random guard. Internally, Luo Xiao cringed at the blatant hero worship. Later, they moved the party to a formal hall where the Donglai reps were sweating buckets and claiming they were just casual workers. They insisted they bought the exhibits on the black market and had no motive to kill anyone. Yan An Cheng and Luo Xiao sat there looking completely unimpressed while the merchants begged for mercy. Just as they were getting somewhere, a special envoy named Song Benchong crashed the meeting. This guy was a total tool and claimed they had no right to interrogate their businessmen. He told the prince to release them immediately or risk an international incident. The prince was ready to go nuclear, but an inspector named Xiaochen told him to chill and focus on the big picture. Internally, Yan An Cheng was probably imagining 10 different ways to make that envoy disappear. Eventually, the prince had to back down, and the envoy walked away looking smug as heck. That night, the duo shared a meal and vented about how the Donglai people were way too confident in their maritime power. They realized the mastermind behind the scenes purposely dragged Donglai into the mess just to kill the investigation. Internally, Luo Xiao felt like they were just spinning their wheels, while the real villain laughed in the shadows. The truth was buried again, and the court was likely going to close the case hastily just to keep the peace. They eventually hit the hay, but Yan An Cheng wasn't actually sleeping. He waited for Luo Xiao to drift off, then pulled a secret jade token out from under his pillow. Internally, he was probably thinking it was time for some late-night illegal activities. He snuck out of bed, threw on a dark cloak, and headed to the pier for a secret rendezvous. The prince met up with the arrogant Donglai envoy in the middle of the night at the docks. Internally, he knew this was a massive risk, but he was desperate for a real lead. Little did he know, Luo Xiao was totally onto him and was watching the whole shady meeting from behind a door. She watched him confront the envoy, looking completely blindsided by her partner's secret double life. The envoy looked smug as Yan An Cheng held up the token, leaving the entire mission in a state of absolute chaos. Internally, Luo Xiao probably decided she was never letting him handle the secret missions alone again. Luo Xiao was lurking in the shadows, keeping a close eye on Yan An Cheng's clandestine meeting. He pressed himself against the wooden wall as the guards patrolled the area, making sure he stayed completely out of sight. Internally, he rolled his eyes. This whole secret agent gig was getting exhausting, and the lack of sleep was definitely not helping his complexion. The investigation took a trip down memory lane to a year ago when Luo Xiao met a mysterious hooded figure in the woods. This guy dropped a total bombshell. His parents' murders were linked to the high and mighty Yan An. But since Annie's influence was basically unfathomable, the only way in was through his half-brother Yan An Cheng. To pull this off, Luo Xiao had to play the long game and pretend to be the crown prince's #1 enemy just to get close. He scoffed at the memory. Sure, just ruined my entire reputation for a lead, no big deal. Fast forward to a month ago at Prince Yu's mansion. Yan An Cheng was out cold in a coma, and the hooded figure urged Luo Xiao to bail while the getting was good. Instead, Luo Xiao decided to double down on his undercover mission. He figured if he acted like he was totally head over heels for the guy, the secrets would eventually start spilling. It was a total fake it till you make it strategy, even if it felt like a massive death flag waiting to happen. Back in the present, Luo Xiao woke up in the same room as the prince only to hear a guard screaming at the window. Apparently, it was early morning, and the Donglai envoy had finally cracked, agreeing to hand over the mechanical blueprints. Yan An Cheng was suspicious of the sudden turnaround, but he was more focused on why Luo Xiao was staring at him so intensely. He actually had the nerve to ask if it was because he looked exceptionally handsome that day. Luo Xiao slapped his hand away and decided to head to the county government instead. Internally, he wanted to scream. Get a grip. Dude, we are in the middle of a conspiracy, not a rom-com. At the government hall, things got technical. They realized the paper used for the blueprints was premium stuff from the Jiangnan area. These artisans were big on encrypted markings to keep their trade secrets safe from prying eyes. Luo Xiao spotted a specific red X symbol, a symbol on the scroll, and pointed it out to the group. The official realized it was the exact same mark Fuda had left behind at the pavilion before he kicked the bucket. They immediately headed to the wonderful playhouse to grill the local talent and see if anyone recognized the ink. They met Miao Hui, a female artisan who was clearly going through it. She revealed that the mark belonged to Mo Shi, a craftsman who had tragically died in a fire incident. Miao Hui started sobbing over the memory, which made Yan An Cheng feel totally out of his depth. Internally, he was panicking. Great, now I am the guy making women cry in public. This investigation is going south fast. The mark actually meant pinpoint, indicating a hidden interlayer in the mechanical design. Only 8 people in the entire workshop knew about it, and all of them had ironclad alibis for the night of the crime. This meant someone had leaked the blueprints, a crime so serious it usually meant being discarded by the industry for good. They watched as the officials burned the compromised blueprints to keep the secret from spreading further. The trail led them back to the Wuji pawn shop to check on some stolen property. Apparently, everything had been returned except for a mysterious ghost box that Boss Ju was obsessed before he was murdered. Nobody knew who the original owner was or why it was so important. Yan An Cheng decided they needed to head to Yanboju next to find more answers. Luo Xiao's heart skipped a beat, wondering for a split second if this was actually a date. Then he realized they were just going to see his sister, and felt totally blindsided by his own wishful thinking. Of course it is work, it is always work. Luo Xiao wasted no time at the pavilion and asked the doctor to pause the princess's eye treatment immediately. He needed her special ghost-seeing eyes to crack the case, and he wasn't about to let a little thing like medical recovery get in the way. Internally, he felt like a total jerk, but the investigation was hitting a dead end, and Ji was confused until Luo Xiao brought up the terrifying hanged ghost she had seen before. He had a theory that the ghost box and the craftsman who supposedly died in the Tiantian fire were linked. Luo Xiao suspected that Boss Ju had actually murdered the craftsman to keep the box for himself and staged the fire as a cover-up. If Ji could spot that spirit again, they would finally find the hidden location of the box. Ji was surprisingly gung-ho about the plan, even though she was nearly scared to death the last time. Li Jiu handed over a special inhibitor drug that would give her a 2-hour window of sight without the ghost vision side effects. While the group settled into a nice independent courtyard for the night, Luo Xiao noticed Li Jiu and his partner acting like a total sweet couple. Internally, he scoffed. Must be nice to have a normal relationship while I'm out here playing 4D chess with my life. Later that evening, the group headed out to the water where Yan An Cheng decided to play the role of the ultimate provider. He speared a fresh fish and excitedly offered to cook sweet and sour fish for Luo Xiao, since it was his favorite. Instead of being touched, Luo Xiao gave him a frosty rejection and told him he had other plans. Yan An Cheng looked totally blindsided by the sudden cold shoulder. He even reached out and grabbed Luo Xiao's sleeve like a kicked puppy, asking if he had done something wrong. Luo Xiao just stared him down and lied through his teeth, claiming he was just exhausted from the case. Internally, he was screaming, "Stop being so domestic. You're making it way too hard to stay undercover." And Ji watched the whole awkward interaction from the sidelines while clutching her fish, looking like she had front row seats to a failing relationship. Back at the dinner table, she tried to play mediator and asked her brother if he had a misunderstanding with the beautiful white-haired investigator. Yan An Cheng was too stressed to even eat, admitting he had used the Xiaodao token to bypass their corrupt elder brother's bribes. He was basically putting a target on his back just to help Luo Xiao solve this case faster. And Ji worried that Luo Xiao had discovered a secret that made him turn so cold, but Yan An Cheng wasn't even sure if they were ever on the same page to begin with. Meanwhile, Luo Xiao had snuck off to a secret meeting with the red-haired immortal Jin. She immediately started roasting him, claiming he had lowered his guard because he was falling in love. Luo Xiao tried to play it cool and claimed he was just luring An Cheng into a trap. Jin didn't buy the act but handed over the Jiangzhen incense ball he had requested. This special tool was designed to sniff out any hidden spiritual consciousness, which would prove once and for all if An Cheng was hiding his true power. Luo Xiao took the ball, determined not to leave any mystery unsolved, even if the truth hurt. He crept back into the dark room late that night, thinking he was alone, but An Cheng was waiting in the shadows. Suddenly, An Cheng ambushed him with a tight back hug, clearly not ready to let the earlier rejection go. He noticed the sweet scent of the new perfume sachet Luo Xiao was carrying and started acting all flirty. When Luo Xiao asked him what he wanted, An Cheng leaned in close and whispered that he only wanted him. However, the romantic vibe was instantly ruined when An Cheng's eyes flared a demonic red. Internally, Luo Xiao realized he had officially walked into a massive death flag. The sweet and sour fish was the least of his problems now that his target was looking ready to snap. An Cheng was stuck in a high-stakes mental argument with his own inner demon, and things were getting heated fast. He swung his sword at the shadowy figure and demanded to know how the demon dared to touch his man. The demon just smirked and reminded An Cheng that Luo Xiao was his original property long before this lifetime. Internally, An Cheng was probably screaming that he needed a better mental firewall to keep this parasitic freak out of his business. The demon claimed An Cheng was just a tiny piece of his own consciousness, but the prince wasn't buying into the midlife crisis vibes. He insisted that this was his life and his choice, even if his roommate was a literal monster with horns. The demon wasn't finished being a hater and taunted him about the fragility of his current feelings. He claimed that once the memories returned the relationship they had now would be totally worthless. To prove he was the one in charge, the demon started a literal soul fire in his chest and threatened to delete his own consciousness right then and there. A sudden flashback revealed an old sage begging the demon lord to rethink his dramatic life choices. Apparently, if the demon checked out early, would cause a massive death toll and ruin any chance of Luo Xiao reaching nirvana. Talk about a toxic relationship dynamic spanning multiple lifetimes and dimensions. Back in the real world, An Cheng collapsed in the marsh like a total lightweight. Luo Xiao spotted the falling star of a man and rushed over, while looking totally blindsided by the sudden blackout. He found An Cheng face down in the weeds and definitely looked like he was regretting every undercover life choice that led him here. He hauled the unconscious prince back to the safety of a high-end building, while looking way more concerned than a professional investigator should. Meanwhile, a suspicious lady with a very telltale mole was busy playing a game of bribe the guard with some premium wine. She successfully distracted the sentry and snuck into a dark room to stare at a glowing ritual circle on the floor with a creepy smile. Back at the bedside, Immortal Jin and the rest of the crew were looking at An Cheng like he was a broken toy. Luo Xiao finally came clean and admitted he used the Jiangzhen incense to force the hidden consciousness out of hiding. He explained to the group that An Cheng was carrying around two conflicting souls, like some sort of supernatural two-for-one deal. He had suspected this weirdness for a while after seeing An Cheng lose his memory and act like a totally different person during their time at Kishan Mountain. An Cheng had been playing dumb every time the subject came up in the past, so Luo Xiao felt he had no choice but to go full mad scientist to confirm his suspicions. Princess NG finally crashed the party to drop the real family lore and spill the ancient tea. She revealed that An Cheng was a total creep as a baby and could speak from the moment he opened his eyes. He apparently spent his infancy claiming to be the supreme existence of the entire world, which is a lot of ego for someone still in swaddling clothes. An expert had to be called in to enlighten him just to make him act like a regular human baby so the family could have some peace. It turned out their older brother, Yan An, was obsessed with this supreme mission and was basically trying to force a demonic promotion on An Cheng whether he wanted it or not. Just as the secrets were getting juicy, An Cheng finally woke up and told the princess to pipe down so he could explain the whole mess to Xiao himself. One day, An Cheng decided it was time to spill the family tea and explained that his brother's descent into madness started with Ms. Mei. She was a loyal maid who died protecting a young An Cheng from rival assassins, and that trauma turned An into a power-hungry tyrant. Internally, An Cheng felt like a walking death flag, guilty that someone else paid the price for his life. He admitted he had no right to stop his brother's quest for world domination given their messy history. Then, things got even weirder when An Cheng asked Luo Xiao if he believed in past lives. He revealed that since childhood, his head had been a crowded apartment shared by a hidden demon and a gentle celestial being named Yuluo. This Luo guy acted like a mentor, teaching An Cheng how to keep his edge without becoming a total monster. An Cheng realized that Luo Xiao was actually the reincarnation of that very same immortal master. Luo Xiao was totally blindsided by the revelation, wondering if it was just because they shared the same face. Internally, he thought, now I'm a replacement for a dream teacher. But An Cheng doubled down, explaining that the brother Xiao act was just a respectful cover for his growing thirst. He felt terrible for almost hurting Xiao earlier and suddenly went for the gold, pulling him in for a surprise kiss. Luo Xiao's brain basically short-circuited as An Cheng took the initiative under the cherry blossoms. Internally, Luo Xiao was screaming, but he didn't exactly push him away. The romantic vibes didn't last long because An Cheng started worrying about his inner demon again. He feared Luo Xiao would ghost him if he saw the true darkness inside. Luo Xiao, being the practical investigator he is, told him to get a grip and stop overthinking. He didn't care about the past lives or the demon, he just hated being lied to. He even told An Cheng that if he ever had to kill him for Annie's sake, he just wanted a heads up first. An Cheng tried to make a dramatic blood oath to prove his loyalty, but Luo Xiao shut that down immediately. Internally, Luo Xiao sighed, thinking, can we just have one normal conversation without a death pact? The mood was officially murdered when a pink-haired messenger named Yuan Xiao burst in with a telegram. He realized he came at the worst possible time but had to report a fresh corpse at Qiangxian court. The team rushed to the scene to find a woman named Miao Hui trapped inside a giant, 3D geometric puzzle called a Wucheng lock. This was third murder case in a row, and the city was officially becoming a hotspot for weird ritualistic killings. The guards were useless, and An Cheng played the lazy royal card, claiming he was only built for physical labor. Internally, he was probably just enjoying watching Luo Xiao work. Luo Xiao took charge and began a high-stakes game of Tetris to free the body. He gave the guards precise instructions on how to rotate the bars without touching the victim. After some intense clicking and clanking, the puzzle fell apart, revealing the soggy remains of the second boss. The victim had foam at her mouth and bruised palms, indicating she'd been drowned after a vicious struggle. Just as they were wrapping up the initial check, Ji went full psychic and pointed at the floor. She saw a ghostly afterimage of the victim's final moments, proving the murder didn't even happen where the body was found. Internally, the group realized they were dealing with someone who loved mind games as much as they loved murder. Ji was busy pointing at thin air, totally freaking out the local guards who couldn't see the literal ghost kneeling on the floor. She described a woman with soaking wet hair bowing beside a mysterious red mark, but to everyone else, it just looked like she was hallucinating. Internally, Luo Xiao sighed. Great, we're taking directions from the paranormal department now. One of the investigators finally arrived with some actual physical evidence, holding a box containing a book called the Shurangama Sutra found at the victim's house. Luo Xiao and Yan An Cheng through the pages, finding a poem and another one of those creepy red marks hidden inside. It was the same mark as the one on the floor, and Luo Xiao realized the victim, Miao Hui, must have been onto something before she got permanent napped. He suddenly went into full detective mode, ordering the guards to move a massive glass exhibit called Fairy Island right on top of the floor mark. Internally, he scoffed. If this doesn't work, I'm going to look like a total lunatic. The base of the glass matched the mark perfectly, but Luo Xiao wasn't done playing interior decorator yet. He had the guards lug in buckets of water and pour them into the glass container. Yan An Cheng realized the whole setup was a trap. The killer had used the poem and the marks like a trail of breadcrumbs to lure Miao Hui to her doom. Luo Xiao explained that the key was a metaphor from the sutra about pointing at the moon. Yan An Cheng basically started a mid-investigation philosophy class, explaining the difference between the real moon and illusion, and a reflection in the water. According to the book, the third moon was just a reflection, and Luo Xiao realized that looking at the reflection meant looking in the opposite direction. He told everyone to look up, and sure enough, a guard spotted a box tucked away in the complicated ceiling beams. It was the missing ghost box hidden in plain sight this whole time. Luo Xiao deduced that the murderer waited for Miao Hui to find the box, then grabbed her and drowned her in the very water used to reveal the secret. It was a classic serial killer move, leaving everyone feeling like they were playing catch-up with a pro. NG offered to use her psychic after-image touch on the box to see what happened, but Luo Xiao shut that down immediately. He told her she'd already drained her mana bar for the day and needed to rest before she accidentally fried her brain. The team started tallying up the body count, realizing they had a full-blown serial killer situation on their hands with 3 victims already down. The head constable felt like a total failure, admitting he couldn't solve a single thing without Luo Xiao's big brain energy. He vowed to catch the killer faster next time, making a dramatic scene that left Luo Xiao just smiling awkwardly. Internally, he was skeptical. Sure, buddy. Let's see you find your own keys first. Later that night, the guys sat down for some tea to discuss the case, suspecting that a guy named Wang Chuang might be the one pulling the strings. Luo Xiao made it clear that he didn't care about personal relationships when it came to throwing someone in jail. Finally, it was time for NG to do her thing. She looked at the ghost box, took a deep breath, and reached out to touch it. The second her fingers made contact, she was totally blindsided by a terrifying psychic vision. A man with a bleeding face and a long, grotesque tongue appeared right in front of her, and she screamed that she'd found him. NG sat there trembling, explaining that the long-tongued man from her vision was the exact same ghost she saw before. She took a closer look and realized he looked identical to a guy named Fa from the local ring stall, just minus a tiny mole. Internally, she wondered if the afterlife had some kind of weird buy one get one free deal on faces. Luo Xiao and Yan An Cheng analyzed the spectral victim, noting the clear rope marks on his neck and the bruises from a nasty fight. Luo Xiao spotted a badge sewn onto the collar that read Moshi from the Wonderful Playhouse. Yan An Cheng was totally blindsided, remembering Moshi as a craftsman who supposedly perished in the Big Tianjin fire years ago. It turned out the guy didn't die in an accident. He was straight up murdered by hanging. Luo Xiao realized the killer was ritualistic, wondering if Fu Da was related to Moshi and out for some blood-soaked revenge. He spent the night overthinking every detail until he finally hit the hay. Meanwhile, over at the constable's warehouse, Wang Chuang was pulling an all-nighter trying to crack a puzzle called the Duoan Sword. He was so obsessed with the box that he didn't even notice the creepy shadow lurking outside his window. Internally, he probably thought he was being a dedicated employee, but in a mystery manhwa, that's usually just a death flag. The next morning, a candle burned low on the desk as the warehouse remained eerily silent. Luo Xiao suddenly bolted upright in bed, gasping for air after a nightmare about being trapped inside the sword puzzle. He told Yan An Cheng that something felt horribly wrong and they needed to check the warehouse immediately. They rushed over and found the place locked tight from the inside, which is never a good sign. Yan An Cheng didn't bother with a key and just used his royal boots to kick the door off its hinges. They stepped inside and were greeted by a giant, colorful puzzle box sitting in the middle of the room. Their hearts dropped when they saw a pair of hands and a head sticking out of the holes in the box, with a massive sword jammed through the top. It looked like a magic trick gone wrong, but without the applause. They realized the man in the box was Wang Chuang, and miraculously, he wasn't dead yet. They splashed a bucket of water on his face to wake him up, and he groggily explained that he'd heard noises and smelled something funky before passing out. Luo Xiao examined the Duoan sword mechanism, convinced he had figured out how to unlock it safely. He ordered the guards to hit the release and pull the sword on his command. Internally, he felt like a genius for solving the puzzle under pressure. But as they pulled the blade, the gears inside the box started grinding with an ominous crack. Luo Xiao's face went pale as he realized the murderer had totally rewired the mechanism. Instead of releasing the prisoner, the trap triggered a set of internal blades that turned the box into a human blender. Blood sprayed everywhere as Wang Chuang was impaled from the inside, coughing up red as his life drained away. Yan An Cheng and Luo Xiao could only watch in horror as their primary lead was turned into a pincushion. In his final moments, Wang Chuang gasped out that he finally knew who the real murderer was, but he died before he could drop the name. The guards fell to their knees, absolutely devastated that their boss just got deleted right in front of them. Luo Xiao collapsed to the floor, staring at his blood-stained hands in total shock. He was completely crushed, blaming himself for falling right into the killer's trap. He felt like a total failure, realizing that his attempt to save the constable was the very thing that finished him off. Yan An Cheng grabbed him, trying to snap him out of it, but the damage was already done. The killer was still one step ahead, and the investigation was now officially a crime scene. Luo Xiao went into full emo mode, locking himself in a room for 5 days straight without a single snack or nap. He was obsessively trashing his room with failed sketches of the murderer while his friends stood outside, totally blindsided by his sudden breakdown. Internally, he was screaming, but externally, he just looked like a penniless guy who had completely forgotten how to function. Finally, Yan An Cheng had enough of the drama and barged into the room, looking at the mountain of crumpled paper. He bluntly pointed out that Wang Chuang had already been cremated and that Luo Xiao was just torturing himself for no reason. Luo Xiao tried to act tough and told the prince to get out because he was interrupting his train of thought. Yan An Cheng wasn't taking no for an answer and literally hauled Luo Xiao over his shoulder like a sack of potatoes. The girls outside were totally into the scene, giving the prince a thumbs up for being so domineering. Yan An Cheng marched him straight to a secluded hot spring behind the mountain, ignoring Luo Xiao's frantic demands to be put down. Once they reached the water, Yan An Cheng pinned him down and forced him to look at his own reflection in the pool. It was a total reality check as the prince asked him if this disheveled mess was really the graceful investigator he used to know. Luo Xiao finally snapped and admitted that the man in the water was the real him, incompetent, embarrassing, and unbearable. He was drowning in guilt, realizing his own failure to spot the rigged mechanism cost a man his life. Yan An Cheng grabbed him by the shoulders and refused to let him insult himself any longer. Luo Xiao broke down, leaning his head against the prince as the weight of his failure finally crushed him. Yan An Cheng softened his tone, telling him that if he refused to eat or sleep, then the prince wouldn't either. He reminded Luo Xiao that only a relaxed person could actually help people and solve the mystery. Luo Xiao was still seeing the ghost of the craftsman and the bloody death flags every time he closed his eyes. Yan An Cheng promised he had a special way to make him relax and told him to just leave everything to him. Cut to the forest, where the prince actually giving Luo Xiao a shirtless back massage on a bamboo mat. Luo Xiao was finally starting to feel the stress wash away, though he probably wasn't expecting this much fan service from a royal. Internally, he scoffed at the absurdity of the situation while his muscles finally stopped acting like stone. Right in the middle of the massage, the confusing clues in his head finally started connecting like a high-speed download. He remembered the 9-ring puzzle stall and the mysterious craftsman, Moshi, who looked exactly like the stall owner. Luo Xiao suddenly realized the murderer had been right under his nose the entire time. He jumped up in a panic, totally forgetting he was currently half-naked and causing Yan An Cheng to blush like a schoolgirl. Luo Xiao announced he had figured out the whole case, and just needed to open the mysterious box to prove it. He thanked the prince for the hard work, leaving Yan An Cheng totally dazed by the sudden shift in energy. Later, the squad gathered at a pavilion, and the girls were shocked that Luo Xiao had cracked the code so quickly. Luo Xiao explained that the ghost box wasn't magic, just a complex mechanical puzzle that relied on specific layers. One without the secret key could try 1,000,000 times and never get it open. He realized the designer was related to Fu Da, who ran the local 9-ring puzzle stall. He used the rhyming mnemonic from the puzzle stall retreat 2. Advance 1, and retreat 3 to flip the box in a specific order. After a series of rapid clicks, the hidden mechanism finally gave way and the box slid open. Everyone peered inside and gasped at the prize. They had finally secured the map of Zimming Heaven Stairs, proving that a little relaxation was all it took to outsmart a killer. Luo Xiao finally cracked the ghost box and found the second part of the Zimming Heaven Stairs map inside. But the real prize was the pile of letters hidden at the bottom. Internally, he sighed, thinking that nothing says drama like a dead man's secret correspondence. He immediately headed to the wonderful playhouse to grill the big boss, Miao Zai, about some suspicious new evidence. Luo Xiao called him out for hiding duty notes during the Tianjin fire incident, knowing full well the records were intentionally torched to hide the truth. Miao Zai played it cool, sipping his tea like he wasn't a total suspect. He told Luo Xiao that losing notes was perfectly normal, and even tried to play the sympathy card by mentioning his own lost disciple. Internally, Luo Xiao rolled his eyes, thinking this guy deserves an Oscar for this performance. Luo Xiao gave him a final ultimatum, basically telling him his life on his next move. Right on cue, the playhouse workers tried to pull a disappearing act through a secret passage leading to the woods. They thought they were being slick, carrying bags of cash and promising never to betray their boss. Too bad for them, Yan An Cheng was already chilling at the exit with an entire squad of soldiers. He told them they were a bit later than expected, totally blindsiding the would-be fugitives. Back at the playhouse, Luo Xiao found Yan An Cheng waiting for him with the captured workers. Yan An Cheng congratulated him on the successful trap, and for a second, the two shared a moment that was almost too wholesome for a murder investigation. Luo Xiao thanked him, but deep down, he just wanted this headache of a case to be over with already. They decided it was time to check on Miao Zai, but things took a dark turn. When they entered the room, they found Miao Zai dead on the floor, surrounded by his own exhibits. He had checked out early, leaving a suicide note behind to take the fall for everything. The local constables were ready to write the report and close the case. But Luo Xiao knew there was more to the story. The next day, a massive notice went up in Sinshu town announcing a public hearing to settle the unrest. The crowd gathered at the court, gossiping about how the famous #1 craftsman could be a serial killer. Luo Xiao stood before them and laid out the entire messy timeline. It all started 3 years ago when a talented but penniless craftsman named Moshi got scammed by Fuda and lost his family heirloom, the ghost box. To get it back, Moshi worked for the playhouse's second boss, Miao Hui. Miao Hui was a total snake who used Moshi's feelings to steal his designs and climb to the top. When Moshi accidentally revealed that the ghost box contained a treasure map, Miao Hui and the pawnshop boss, Zhu, decided murder was the best way to keep the secret. They jointly hanged him, but the cover-up didn't end there. Luo Xiao revealed the final twist. Miao Hui wasn't just a disciple. She was Miao Zai's secret illegitimate daughter. To protect her, the old man staged the entire Tiantian fire incident and eventually offed himself to take the blame for the recent string of murders. The public was totally shocked by the revelation, and the case was officially marked as solved. However, in the shadows of the crowd, a mysterious figure watched the announcement with a clenched fist, clearly indicating that this finale was far from over. Luo Xiao stood before the court and explained that the mysterious ghost box was a high-tier puzzle no average person could crack on their own. Internally, he scoffed at how long it took these people to realize they needed a professional. The crowd was still buzzing about Miao Zai's supposed suicide. But Luo Xiao dropped a total bombshell by revealing the real serial killer was still standing in the room. Suddenly, a suspicious man in the audience tried to make a break for it, but Prince Yu was already 10 steps ahead and pinned the guy down with a sword. Luo Xiao stepped forward and identified the suspect as Mo Wang, the twin brother of the original victim, Moshi. With a quick motion, Luo Xiao ripped off the man's fake beard to reveal a much younger face underneath. The onlookers were totally blindsided, because they all thought this was the scammer Fuda who was supposed to be dead. Luo Xiao explained that Mo Wang had been playing a long game of hide-and-seek while looking for his missing sibling. Internally, he rolled his eyes at the sheer drama of it all. He pointed out that the body they pulled from the water earlier was just partial remains, mostly just a pair of feet. Luo Xiao noted that you can't exactly confirm an identity based on a few toes, and it was obvious Mo Wang had faked his own death to go under the radar. The investigation revealed that Mo Wang had been living a double life, working at a butcher's stall while assuming Fuda's identity, to wait for the perfect moment to strike. He finally found his motive to kill when he spotted Zhu carrying the ghost box. Mo Wang realized his cover was blown, but he wasn't about to go quietly and lunged at the group. Prince Yu stepped in to protect Luo Xiao, leading to a high-stakes clash of steel. In the middle of the chaos, Mo Wang managed to grab Luo Xiao and started talking trash, calling him a pretty boy with a low IQ who only knew how to serve powerful men. Luo Xiao didn't even flinch at the insult. He leaned in close and whispered that if anyone was doing the serving, it was definitely the prince serving him and not the other way around. Prince Yu was completely caught off guard by the comment, his face turning a bright shade of red while the crowd watched the awkward tension. Internally, Luo Xiao enjoyed the chaos. If you're going to insult my career, at least get the power dynamic right, he thought. Mo Wang continued to mock Luo Xiao's intelligence, claiming he only got lucky by opening the box. Just as Mo Wang thought he was the smartest person in the room, a hooded figure stepped out of the shadows to reveal boss Miao was very much alive. The crowd gasped, wondering how a dead man was walking around. A flashback showed that Luo Xiao had cornered Miao a day earlier, giving him a choice between cooperating or facing a brutal government interrogation. They had used a spare mechanism from a secret room and a bucket of chicken blood to stage a fake suicide that was totally Oscar-worthy. Prince Yu had been in on the plan the whole time, waiting for Luo Xiao's signal to start acting his part. Mo Wang realized he had been played and went into a full-blown villain monologue. He pulled out a hidden weapon and brutally took out a nearby guard in a spray of blood. He then held up a glowing green device, revealing the true nature of the Tiantian fire. He claimed that the device could level an entire city in a single second and turn the world into a living hell. Mo Wang shouted that his brother Mo Shai hadn't just died because of the box, but because he tried to stop the illegal sale of this weapon to black market military merchants. As Mo Wang prepared to activate the device and end everyone, a woman's voice suddenly rang out through the court. She called him by his pet name, Heng Cheng, which stopped him dead in his tracks. Mo Wang looked completely stunned as a woman with flowers in her hair before him. She looked at him with a mix of sadness and disappointment, asking how he could possibly expect her to leave this world in peace, while he was acting like such a troublemaker. Mo Wang could only stare at his sister, his revenge plan crumbling as his past literally walked up to greet him. One day, the psycho killer Mo Wang found himself trapped in a total feels trip flashback of his childhood. He remembered a time when he and his sister, Mo Shi, were just innocent kids playing in trees and promising to become the greatest craftsmen in the world. Back then, they wanted to use their talents to help people, not turn them into high-speed pincushions. In the present, Mo Wang stared at his sister's spirit as she begged him to stop hurting the innocent. He tried to argue that he'd kill everyone just to be with her again, but she shut that down real quick, telling him he'd become the exact kind of monster she hated most. Mo Wang completely lost his cool and collapsed, realizing he turned his life into a massive trash fire. While he was busy having a mental breakdown, Yan An Cheng moved in and put the literal squeeze on him. But of course, things couldn't just be easy. The green city leveling device slipped out of Mo Wang's hand and started glowing a terrifying shade of red. Luo Xiao watched in horror as the weapon took flight like it had somewhere better to be. Suddenly, a wild villain named Xu Du appeared on the roof, catching the device with some high-tier telekinesis. He laughed like a classic loot goblin, bragging about how he was going to take the Zimming Heaven Stairs map and everyone's lives. Before the heroes could even launch a counterattack, he vanished into a cloud of black smoke. Luo Xiao was totally blindsided by how much the guy's magic had improved in just a few months. Yan An Cheng looked like he was ready to issue a nationwide ban on black magic, just out of pure spite. Meanwhile, Princess Ange finally woke up from her trance, looking extremely confused about how she'd ended up on the floor. Her attendant explained she'd been possessed by Mo Xi's spirit, which honestly sounds like a great excuse for a nap. Mo Wang was dragged away by the guards, looking like a penniless loser who'd realized his sister had basically set him up for failure. A local official showed up to kiss some serious royal boots, and Ange immediately started bragging about how the whole investigation was a piece of cake. Later on, the crew headed back to a much cleaner building where Xiao Qi was busy burning mugwort. Apparently, the place needed a serious vibe check to get rid of all the bad luck. Ange was busy hugging her favorite person, but she quickly turned her snark on Luo Xiao and the prince when Yan An Cheng told Luo Xiao he needed to rest. Ange looked like she was going to throw up from the blatant public display of affection. Internally, she was screaming, "Can you two chill? I'm still a baby here." Luo Xiao wasn't having any of her attitude and called her out for her acting earlier during the possession. Ange just laughed it off, admitting she'd learned her drama skills from watching the two of them. Once the brat was out of the room, Yan An Cheng got down to business and asked how Luo Xiao had figured out the truth about the twins. Luo Xiao explained he'd sent an investigation team to their hometown to interview the neighbors, which is basically the ancient version of doxing someone. It turned out the twins' father had received the Zimming Heaven Stairs map from a random beggar, and their parents had died shortly after. Luo Xiao sighed, thinking about how the twins' talent had basically been a death flag from the start. He ranted about how infinite greed was the real villain of the world, getting all philosophical while the sun set. Yan An Cheng listened for about 5 seconds before deciding he was done with the talking part of the evening. In a move that caught Luo Xiao completely off guard, the prince suddenly flipped a table and pinned him down. Luo Xiao tried to play it cool, telling the prince to keep his urges under control since they had a trial tomorrow. Internally, he was sweating. "Is this really the time for a power move, buddy?" Prince Yu just smirked and reminded him of a certain promise he'd made to make things up to him once the murderer was caught. It looked like the investigation was over, but Luo Xiao's personal problems were just getting started. Yan An Cheng was busy trying to collect on a very personal promise from Luo Xiao, pinning him down while the atmosphere in the room got suspiciously heavy. Across the manor, Princess Ange was enjoying a massive feast and wondered why her brother and Luo Xiao hadn't joined the party yet. Her friend tried to explain that the two men were definitely not in the mood for food, giving Ange a look that said she was way too young to understand the vibe. Ange just stood there with a light bulb over her head, totally convinced they were having some top-secret investigator meeting. Internally, she scoffed. If they're working that hard, they better be getting a raise. Back in the bedroom, Yan An Cheng had a total meltdown when he noticed a certain square-shaped gap on the floor. He panicked, shouting that the Zimming Heaven Stairs map had been swiped right from under their noses. Luo Xiao, looking completely unbothered in his robes, just pointed a finger at the cabinet. The map was sitting right there, and Yan An Cheng felt like a complete clown for losing his cool. Yan admitted he was so distracted by the map of Luo Xiao's beautiful body that he didn't even notice the actual map falling. Luo Xiao just sighed and told him to keep it safe since they still had to report to the uncle. The scene shifted to the courtroom where the captured killer, Mo Wang, was finally ready to spill his life story. He explained that he and his brother were inseparable until his sibling died under mysterious circumstances at the wonderful playhouse. Mo Wang didn't buy the official story and headed to Sinshu town to find the truth himself. The first person he tracked down was a thief named Fu Da, who had stolen from his brother. Fu Da panicked when he saw Mo Wang and accidentally yeeted himself off a cliff. Mo Wang decided to steal the Dan's identity and stayed in town to plot his revenge. While living as a ghost, Mo Wang spent his time crafting illegal mechanical weapons and complicated gadgets. He sent a threat letter to Boss Ju using a fake name, which worked like a charm. Boss Ju was so terrified that he grabbed a mysterious box and tried to flee the town in a panic. Mo Wang lured the guy to a slaughterhouse and used a machine to turn him into a permanent resident of the afterlife. He realized there was no turning back once his hands were covered in blood. When the investigators finally closed in, he faked his death by jumping into the water and pulling a Houdini move to escape. Mo Wang admitted he left a red mark behind on purpose just to bait out the second boss, Miao Hui. He was actually pretty salty that the main characters solved his riddles way faster than he expected. To buy himself more time and distract everyone, he even tampered with the mechanics of the Duo Wen sword to kill Wang Chuan right in front of them. Luo Xiao was fuming as he listened to this guy admit to being a serial killer with a flair for the dramatic. Internally, he wanted to slap the smirk off the killer's face. Imagine being this extra just to finish a hit list. The court official had seen enough and ordered Prince Yan An Cheng to escort Mo Wang to the capital for a final trial. Yan accepted the imperial scroll, knowing this trip was going to be a massive headache. Later, on a boat ride to the capital, Yan asked why they were keeping this psycho alive instead of executing him on the spot. Luo Xiao explained that Mo Wang is the only person left who knows the secrets of the Tiantian fire weapon. Since every militant in the country wants that kind of firepower, Mo Wang is basically a walking gold mine. They were also carrying the Ximing map, making their boat a prime target for anyone looking to get rich quick. Luo Xiao chose the sea route specifically to avoid road ambushes, but he knew they weren't out of the woods yet. Meanwhile, Princess Ange was pouting on a regular boat because she got downgraded from the Royal Guard ship. She was leaning over the railing and sighing about her boring life when a mysterious man suddenly appeared. He claimed to be a new recruit named Wu Zigang, tasked with protecting her. Ange was totally blindsided by how handsome the guy was, but she had no idea he was hiding a major secret. The stranger was actually an ancient sorcerer who could move between the 6 paths, and nobody else on the boat could even see or hear him. He leaned in close to the blushing princess, clearly planning something devious. Internally, Ange was panicking. Is this a rescue, or am I about to be the next plot point in a disaster? The sorcerer just smirked, knowing he had the perfect opening to stir up some serious trouble. Princess Ange retreated to her room and locked the door, thinking she finally had a second of peace. She was totally blindsided when Wu Zigang, the invisible ancient sorcerer, started chatting her up from the shadows. He explained that while her eyes could see spiritual beings, she couldn't actually touch him until she leveled up her training. Internally, Ange probably wondered if she could at least use him as a space heater. To prove a point, the sorcerer manifested a physical body, though he complained that having to eat and drink was a massive chore. Ange immediately started poking his chest and face to see if he was real. Wu Zigang got flustered and told her to watch where she was touching. Internally, he scoffed at how little respect she had for ancient being. Ange apologized with a wink, but she was clearly just having fun with her new magical toy. The sorcerer sat on the table and revealed he had been watching her since she arrived in Jiangnan. He decided he wanted to take her as his disciple and teach her the art of sorcery. He admitted that while she was a total airhead, her spiritual eyes were actually top tier. He tapped her forehead with his fan, officially marking her for a life of magical nonsense. Meanwhile, the guard's ship was turning into a total dumpster fire. Flames were erupting everywhere, and the vessel was rapidly taking in water. Ninjas had boarded the ship and started skewering the guards like kebabs. Yan An Cheng and Luo Xiao were caught in the middle of the chaos as a ninja made a desperate move for Mo Wang. One guard took a spear through the chest right in front of the prince. Yan An Cheng didn't hesitate and drew his sword, telling the masked intruder they had seriously overestimated themselves. A frantic battle broke out on the deck while Luo Xiao tried to keep the prisoner secure. One female ninja realized the mission was a bust and pulled a Batman, diving into the water to escape the burning wreck. A guard reported that 5 assassins were involved, but only the leader managed to vanish. Yan An Cheng looked at Mo Wang and asked if he knew the attackers, but the prisoner played dumb. The prince ordered a full investigation into the coastal guards, suspecting an inside job. Just as a massive flaming beam crashed down, making the ship totally unusable, a new player entered the chat. A fancy merchant ship pulled up alongside the wreckage, and a man stood on the deck looking very pleased with himself. It was Yan and he, the prince's big brother. An Cheng looked relieved, but Luo Xiao stayed on high alert, and he claimed he was just finishing up some rent collection, and happened to rent a merchant ship to head back to the capital. Internally, An Cheng probably thought that was the most suspicious timing in history. An Cheng introduced Luo Xiao as his close friend, which led to a very awkward stare-down between the two. Luo Xiao claimed he had never heard of the older brother, but he fired back that he had definitely heard of Luo Xiao. The vibes were immediately rancid. Despite the tension, and he invited everyone onto his ship since theirs was literally sinking. An Cheng ordered his men to lock Mo Wang in a hidden cellar to prevent any more accidents. And he asked about Princess Ange's whereabouts, and An Cheng assured him she was safe on another boat. Back on Ange's boat, Wu Zigang was busy dropping a massive lore dump. He claimed to be a great sorcerer who had served heaven earth for ages, and could be compared to the gods. He explained that because he knew too many secrets, a devil had cursed him to be eternally lonely. He told Ange that sorcery relied on emotions, so she had to stay pure-hearted to make it work. He admitted that he chose her because she was meddlesome, which was apparently the perfect trait for a sorcerer. He placed his hand on her head, officially starting her training. Ange asked what the actual benefits were, and Wu Zigang explained that she would eventually be able to foresee things that others couldn't. Internally, Ange was probably just hoping for a way to get out of chores. Back on the main ship, and he and An Cheng sat down for a private chat, and he dropped the act and admitted he wasn't there for the prisoner. He wanted the blueprint for the Tiantian fire. He tried to convince An Cheng that handing the tech over to the court would only benefit the crown prince, who was currently a rival. And he stood up, trying to pressure his brother into making a move before the other 6 nations grew too strong. He promised to protect Mo Wang as long as he was in An Cheng's hands, but warned that he'd take action once the prisoner reached the judicial court. An Cheng wasn't having it and told his brother to stay in his lane, and he eventually backed off, saying he'd wait for good news. As he walked away, he realized someone was eavesdropping and called them out. Luo Xiao stepped into the room, looking totally unbothered, and he noted that Luo Xiao had tried to kill him 3 times in the past. Luo Xiao just gave a cold smile, noting that many people ended up dead at the prince's hands. The internal monologue was clear. This alliance was held together by scotch tape and bad intentions. Prince Yan, he decided to take a trip down memory lane, but not the fun kind. He started lecturing Luo Xiao about the fall of Ruin City and how the Yuan family stayed neutral until the eldest son betrayed everyone by mobilizing 6 different armies. The city lord ended up martyring himself just to save the people, which was a total tragedy. Internally, Luo Xiao was fuming. This guy has absolutely zero remorse for what happened, he thought, and he wasn't done being a jerk yet and asked Luo Xiao what his real connection to the Yuan family was. Luo Xiao tried to play it cool, claiming they were just neighbors during a rough patch. But he had done his thorough investigation and knew the family was wiped out 10 years ago, while Luo Xiao was off training at a temple. He basically told Luo Xiao that he only let him stay near his brother because he was useful. Then, he pulled out a golden feathered arrow just to be extra threatening. He warned Luo Xiao to keep his hands off An Cheng because the prince had a noble destiny that involved marrying a princess from the 6 kingdoms. Keep your distance and avoid any misunderstandings, buddy, and he basically said. Internally, Luo Xiao wanted to snap that arrow in half and shove it somewhere. Later that night, Luo Xiao was back in his room making some questionable life choices with a jar of wine. He was totally hammered and replaying Anhe's threats in his head. When An Cheng finally showed up, he was shocked to see his friend drowning his sorrows. Luo Xiao wasn't in the mood for small talk and told him to get lost. An Cheng thought he was just upset about the prisoner, Mo Wang, but Luo Xiao scoffed at his cluelessness. He mocked An Cheng for being an obedient little brother who always followed orders. Then things got intense when Luo Xiao asked if he really planned on marrying some random princess in the future. An Cheng was totally blindsided and pointed out that there weren't even any princesses in Day. Luo Xiao didn't care about technicalities and got right in his personal space. He demanded to know if An Cheng would marry one if she actually existed. Internally, he thought, if you say yes, I am actually going to lose it. An Cheng tried to pivot to talking about their successful case, but Luo Xiao wasn't having it. He realized An Cheng was just dodging the question and decided to take charge. He pulled An Cheng into a hug and started undoing his robe, catching the prince completely off guard. Since you like following rules so much, let's see how you handle this, he thought. Meanwhile, Princess Ange was using her new sorcery powers for the most important task, spying on the drama. She was watching the whole scene through a magical vision and was getting seriously invested. Just as the clothes were starting to come off, her master, Wu Zigang, popped up out of nowhere. He covered her eyes like the ultimate buzzkill, telling her this wasn't suitable for children. Ange was absolutely livid. Internally, she screamed, "Damn it, it was just getting to the good part." Zigang ignored her tantrums and reminded her that he could teach her way more if she'd just commit to being his disciple. Ange had to do some serious mental math on her priorities. On one hand, she'd get a handsome master, endless sweets, and immortality. On the other hand, she'd be cursed to be forever alone. She asked if there was any way to break the curse, but Zigang told her no one had ever even tried. She was still worried about her family's reaction, but Zigang told her there was no rush. He handed her a purple psychic orb so she could summon him whenever she finally made up her mind. Internally, Ange sighed. Is being a powerful sorcerer worth giving up on a romance of my own? She wondered, and he stood on the deck of his ship, looking like he was auditioning for a dramatic perfume commercial, while his mind drifted back 10 years. He remembered being on the city walls of Ruin, where the head of the Yuan family was busy giving a final speech about justice. The old man didn't wait for a reply before he decided to take a long walk off a short ledge, leaving Anhe to deal with the fallout. And he reached out, but it was too late, and he was left staring at the empty space where a life used to be. Internally, he groaned. Of course he'd choose my shift to jump. Things got worse when the man's son, Yuan Nai, and nephew Yuan Lin showed up to catch the finale. They immediately started screaming about how he was an evildoer who murdered their father. And he wasn't about to let a child ruin his reputation, so he delivered a swift slap to shut the kid up. The girl, Yuan Lin, took one look at the violence and bolted into the night, crying her eyes out. Back in the present, and he rubbed his temples, wondering if that runaway kid was actually the same person currently making his life a living hell. He tried to convince himself that the timeline was all wrong, but the suspicion was already living rent-free in his head. The scene shifted to Dai Palace, where the emperor was having a literal victory lap, rolling around on his bed like a toddler who just got a gold star. He praised An Cheng for his great achievements and offered him any reward he wanted. An Cheng, tired of the drama, just asked for a leave of absence to spend the new year in peace. The emperor laughed and granted him a month-long break, but with a catch. He had to go hunt down the last piece of the Zimming Heaven Stairs right after. An Cheng bowed, probably thinking that there was always a fine print with this guy. Their meeting was cut short when a servant rushed in, announcing that the empress was having another one of her headaches. The emperor sighed, complaining that she never listened to his advice about cultivating her mind and body. He dismissed the group, and An Cheng and Luo Xiao headed out into the snowy palace grounds. As they rode in their carriage, Luo Xiao noted that the empress wasn't actually sick. She was just missing her son. The crown prince had been stuck in seclusion at the court of judicial review for 6 months after his massive fail at Qi Mountain. Internally, Luo Xiao scoffed. If my kid was that big of a disappointment, I'd have a headache too. Meanwhile, a hooded figure made their way past the heavy bars of the prison to visit the disgraced prince. The lock clicked open, and the crown prince looked up with a smug smile, greeting his visitor like he'd been expecting them all along. A dark memory flashed through the air, showing a woman desperately running through the woods with a baby in her arms. An arrow whistled through the trees, nearly pinning the infant, and the shooter was revealed to be a younger, cold-blooded he. It seemed like he had been playing the role of the Grim Reaper for a long time. Finally, the sun came up, and Luo Xiao woke up feeling like he'd been hit by a truck. He caught a glimpse of himself in the reflection and saw bright red hickeys all over his neck, causing him to completely lose his cool. He looked over at An Cheng, who was still fast asleep and wearing a look of pure, unadulterated happiness. Internally, Luo Xiao was fuming. "Oh, you think this is funny? You're about to have a very rude awakening." Without a second thought, he transformed into a ball of pure rage and kicked the sleeping prince right out of the bed, ending the romantic morning before it even started. One morning, Luo Xiao woke up to find Yan An Cheng lurking in his room like a total creep. He demanded to know if the guy had broken through the window again, feeling his personal space disappear in real time. An Cheng just pouted and claimed it was way too cold to sleep alone during the winter. Internally, Luo Xiao scoffed and wondered if this prince had ever heard of a thing called a blanket. He pushed the prince away, asking what exactly An Cheng took him for. An Cheng tried to be smooth, calling him the most important person. But Luo Xiao wasn't falling for the charm offensive. He warned An Cheng that as long as he was still Prince Yu's son, they needed to keep their distance. Luo Xiao stormed out into the courtyard to clear his head and get some air. He was supposed to be a professional investigator gathering evidence of Yan An's crimes, but he felt totally blindsided by his own messy emotions. He punched a tree in frustration, cursing the bastard An Cheng for being such a constant, annoying distraction. Internally, he screamed at himself to get it together before he caught a case of feelings. He realized he was only staying there because of the warrant, otherwise he'd never serve such a pervert. Suddenly, he noticed someone else was lurking on the other side of the tree. He didn't hesitate and snatched the intruder by the hair, ready for a fight. Turned out to be Yi, who looked like he had been caught in 4K. Yi begged for a proper conversation while Luo Xiao interrogated him about his presence in the palace. Apparently, the guy was posing as a new scholar for the prince to stay under the radar. He sighed and explained that his life had become a total mess because of the games the royals played. Luo Xiao listened as Yi spilled the tea on the local political landscape. They discussed the nation of Yu Li, a powerhouse ruled by women that sat right on their border. Yu Li was loaded with resources and had a massive army, making them the ultimate prize for an alliance. The crown prince was the prime candidate for a political marriage with Yu Li, but Yan An had sabotaged the whole thing. He had orchestrated a scandal to force the crown prince into a different marriage, effectively killing the Yu Li alliance since they practiced strict monogamy. It was a high-stakes game of chess, where everyone was just a pawn for Anhe's ambitions. Luo Xiao realized that Anhe was just stalling for time until the Yu Li delegation arrived on the 12th lunar month. Yi teased him, suggesting Luo Xiao was just trying to drive a wedge between the prince and the palace. He warned that if the Yu Li princess actually liked Anhe, Luo Xiao was basically a dead man walking. Luo Xiao stood in the snow, processing the fact that he was currently playing a losing game. After Yi left, another mysterious figure named Qiu emerged from the shadows to deliver a message. She dropped a massive bombshell, claiming she had heard that Luo Xiao's brother was actually still alive. Luo Xiao was shaken to his core, but managed to keep his face a mask of indifference. She handed him a secret note containing the location of a hideout in the capital where he could find more details. He memorized the address instantly and told her to destroy the paper before anyone saw it. Internally, his mind was racing with the possibility of a family reunion he never thought possible. Just as Ling Qiu vanished, Yan An Cheng came bouncing back into the scene like an overexcited puppy. He waved at Luo Xiao, asking if he had found anything fun to do while he was left alone. Luo Xiao quickly hid his surprise and put on a fake, polite smile. He asked why the prince was returning from his palace errands so early, hoping the guy hadn't seen his secret meeting. Internally, he groaned at the timing and wished the prince would find a hobby that didn't involve breathing down his neck. He knew things were about to get a lot more complicated with his brother potentially in the mix. Now, he just had to survive the prince's clinginess long enough to make his next move. An Cheng dragged Luo Xiao along to help him pick out ornaments for the emperor's upcoming Laba festival banquet. He was totally focused on the Yu Li diplomatic corps that was supposed to arrive soon. Luo Xiao just wanted to get through the day without any more drama. An Cheng eventually led her to a specific tribute piece he found in the warehouse. It was a clay goddess of mercy statue that looked pretty standard at first glance. Internally, Luo Xiao sighed, wondering why she was being used as a personal shopper for a prince. An Cheng acted like he'd discovered fire as he showed off the statue's secret feature. He poured water into the base and watched it pitter-patter through the figure. The water pumped up from the bottom and flowed out through the vase the goddess was holding. It was basically a high-end ancient humidifier. An Cheng looked incredibly proud of himself for finding such a unique gift. He admitted he'd basically begged the emperor to let him have it just to impress her. Luo Xiao took one look at the craftsmanship and immediately suspected a connection. She asked if it was made by the master of pottery, Bai Yunshen. An Cheng was surprised she knew the name and confirmed it was a rare piece from Chengguan town. He explained that Bai Yunshen's sculptures were world-famous national treasures. Apparently, even wealthy collectors like Shaoqi been rejected when trying to buy his work. An Cheng noted that the only piece the master ever officially contributed was a sculpture called Concubine. That specific work had been sent to Yu Lai as a gift, and he'd never actually seen it. Luo Xiao's internal alarm bells went off the moment she heard Yu Li mentioned again. Internally, she rolled her eyes. Of course, everything leads back to the same suspicious political alliance. She brought up the rumors that the Yu Li princess was a gorgeous martial arts master. She jokingly suggested the princess would be a perfect match for a prince like An Cheng. An Cheng immediately felt the stench of sour lemons in the air and assumed she was jealous. He tried to reassure her that the princess was the crown prince's problem, not his. He revealed that some officials had just begged the emperor to release the crown prince from the Dali pagoda. The emperor granted amnesty, which was a suspiciously fast turnaround for someone in the doghouse. An Cheng was just glad his brother was back so he wouldn't be forced into a political marriage. He got all mushy and told Luo Xiao she didn't need to give him the cold shoulder. He wanted to show the Yu Li princess they were a match made in heaven. He hoped that by acting like a total simp, the arrogant princess would realize she was a third wheel. Luo Xiao just stared at him, wondering if his brain had finally melted from all the flirting. He even tried to get all touchy-feely, acting like a needy puppy. Internally, she scoffed. This guy really has zero shame when it comes to his public image. The calendar flipped to December 6th, and the pair headed to the Yong'an Gate to meet the caravan. The Yu Li delegation arrived with a massive amount of flair and several heavy-duty carriages. An Cheng put on his professional face as the captain of the Imperial Guard to welcome Princess Angier. He barely got the greeting out before a whip lashed out from the princess's carriage. The whip cracked through the air, nearly taking someone's head off in the process. An Cheng reacted instantly, jumping back and pulling Luo Xiao out of the line of fire. He looked absolutely livid that his welcoming committee was being met with literal violence. Luo Xiao stayed composed, but she was definitely judging the princess's lack of diplomatic chill. An Cheng demanded to know what the hell the princess thought she was doing. The curtains of the carriage parted to reveal the princess, looking like she was ready for a war. She didn't come for a party. She came for revenge. She pointed toward a nearby litter where her brother, Prince Anjilu, was slumped over. The guy looked like he'd been hit by a truck or a very long curse. He was completely unresponsive and clearly in a bad way. The princess accused the Da Yi Empire of intentionally harming her brother. She threatened that if they didn't get an explanation immediately, the two nations would be sworn enemies. An Cheng realized this was a massive red flag and tried to de-escalate the situation. He told her he understood her grief but urged her to bring the prince to the palace for a formal talk. He insisted that Da Yi would never intentionally sabotage a union between their countries. The princess eventually agreed to follow him, though she didn't look convinced. Internally, Luo Xiao realized the peaceful diplomatic mission had just turned into a murder mystery. Once they got to the palace, the princess laid out the whole story for the emperor. She explained that 3 months ago, Da Yi had sent them that famous bee sculpture as a gift. Her brother, Prince Jilu, had absolutely loved the concubine piece by Master Bai. However, the gift turned out to be a total nightmare in disguise. The prince became obsessed with the statue, staring at it every single day like he was possessed. He started mumbling to himself and refused to eat or sleep. Eventually, his emotions went totally out of control, and he lost the ability to communicate. 10 days ago, he fell into a deep coma that no doctor could wake him from. Everyone looked at the prince's vegetable-like state and realized the gift was a literal death trap. One day, the emperor sat on his throne and sighed over the tragic state of Prince Anjilu, though he made sure to mention that Da Yi definitely didn't do it on purpose. Luo Xiao stood by as An Cheng asked the princess if she actually had any proof that their gift caused the coma. Internally, Luo Xiao rolled her eyes, thinking, as if a clay doll could actually take down a whole prince. Princess Angier just clapped her hands and had her attendants bring out the infamous concubine sculpture. She challenged anyone brave enough to look the statue in the eyes to see if she was just talking nonsense. The court officials started gossiping immediately, wondering how a piece of pottery could possibly steal someone's sanity. The emperor looked around the room and asked which of his brave subjects wanted to step up to the plate. Vice Minister Xiao Bang and Commander Wang Ju both volunteered, probably hoping for a promotion. However, Princess Angier shut them down fast, pointing at her comatose brother and demanding a more high-ranking volunteer to show some real sincerity. Just as the tension peaked, a voice called out "Father," and the crown prince, Yan An, strolled into the room like he owned the place. Everyone was totally blindsided because the guy was supposed to be locked up under judicial review. The officials started whispering that the empress must have pulled some strings to get him pardoned early. Luo Xiao watched him enter, and realized her plan to volunteer was officially ruined. Yan An he played the part of the dutiful son, claiming he came because he heard the envoys had misunderstood Dai Yi. He bowed to the emperor and offered to be the one to test the sculpture's power. Princess Angier looked him over and decided he seemed honorable enough for the job. The emperor gave him the green light, telling him to take a look if he wanted to make up for his past mistakes. Yan An he turned toward the statue and was immediately struck by how realistic Master Bai Yunshen's work was. He commented that it was beautiful but couldn't compare to a real human being. Princess Angier told him to quit looking at her and focus on the clay lady instead. Internally, Yan An he thought, "I'm at your disposal, princess," as he locked eyes with the sculpture. He stared deep into the statue's eyes, and for a second it looked like the clay figure was actually looking back at him. Suddenly, his expression went blank and his pupils dilated as if he'd been hit by a truck. Before anyone could react, the crown prince completely lost consciousness and collapsed onto the floor. The entire room erupted into chaos as the emperor screamed for them to call Master Xu Heng immediately. Outside, the snow continued to fall as the palace went into full-blown panic mode. A short time later, Yan An he was tucked into a bed behind a screen while the doctor examined him. The emperor asked for a status report, and Master Xu Heng explained that the prince had inhaled some toxic gas hidden within the statue. Luckily, the toxin wasn't lethal, but the crown prince would need some serious meds to recover. Princess Angier looked at the emperor and asked if he finally believed her now that his own son was a vegetable. She pointed out that while the crown prince only looked at it for a minute, her brother had been stuck with the demonic item for 2 whole months. The emperor promised that once they investigated the situation, they would give Yu Li a full explanation. Angier snapped back that she couldn't wait around for a slow investigation while her brother's life was on the line. Master Xu Heng stepped forward with a small bottle, claiming he had a prescription that could save the prince. He also advised that the clay statue be removed immediately since it was clearly cursed or possessed. Princess Angier asked if they had ever actually tried to move the statue away from someone who was affected by it before. An Cheng and Luo Xiao looked confused, but the princess didn't wait for an answer and shoved the statue off its pedestal. The moment the sculpture moved, the semi-conscious crown prince's eyes flew open in a terrifying red alert moment. He lunged out of bed with insane speed, reaching for the statue like a man possessed. He grabbed it midair, his face contorted with desperation as he clung to the clay figure. Princess Angier explained that anyone attracted by the statue would protect it at all costs, and if they were separated, they'd go totally berserk. Luo Xiao realized the situation was way more complicated than a simple poisoning. It was like the statue was a literal drug. The emperor turned to An Cheng and Luo Xiao, ordering them to find the truth behind this mess before things got even worse. An Cheng agreed, but before they could leave, Princess Angier shouted for them to hang on. She looked at Luo Xiao and realized this was the legendary #1 intelligence ranker she'd heard so much about. Suddenly, the hostile princess turned into a total fangirl, her eyes sparkling as she realized she was meeting a celebrity. She lunged at Luo Xiao, hugging her and shouting about how much her family loved her work. An Cheng's face turned bright red with jealousy as he physically pulled the princess away from his partner. The princess didn't care and kept yelling for Luo Xiao to ditch Dai Yi and come work for the Yu Li family instead. Luo Xiao just stood there thinking, "Great, now I have a royal stalker to deal with on top of a cursed statue." Luo Xiao wasn't about to let a few compliments go to his head, so he politely told Princess Angier to keep her rewards until the job was actually finished. Internally, he probably just wanted her to stop breathing down his neck for 5 minutes. The emperor told Prince An Cheng to be a good host and escort the guests to the guest house to rest up. While An Cheng looked ready to explode, a sneaky official reminded him to keep his cool and not kidnap the investigator just yet. During the carriage ride, the group traveled through the snowy streets while An Cheng pouted like a child who had lost his favorite toy. He was incredibly salty that the prince had chosen Luo Xiao for a political marriage instead of him, even though he had been planning to reject her anyway. Talk about a massive ego. He looked at Luo Xiao with a dark expression, thinking to himself that he wished he'd just locked the guy up at home, so no one else could ever look at him. Honestly, the Yander death flags were reaching peak levels at this point. Suddenly, Luo Xiao spotted a building called the Yushan Music Association and ordered the driver to stop immediately. He claimed he wanted to hop off early to dodge the princess's inevitable fangirl stalking once they reached the guest house. An Cheng was surprisingly chill for once and told him they'd catch up in the evening before letting him go. Luo Xiao hopped out and watched the carriage roll away, finally enjoying a brief moment of peace and quiet. He pulled out a secret note confirming that this music shop was actually a hidden base for his organization in the capital. Little did he know, a mysterious silhouette was already watching him from the shadows like a total creep. Inside the shop was filled with handcrafted instruments, but the girl at the front desk was literally drooling while sleeping on the job. Luo Xiao knocked on the table and popped her dream bubble, totally blindsided by the lack of professionalism in his own hideout. The girl woke up in a panic and tried to give him a generic sales pitch, but he went straight for the manager. The owner, a man named Yuan Jin, appeared and acted like he'd been waiting for this moment his entire life. He led Luo Xiao to the back of the shop, where a secret door hidden behind a painting swished open like a scene from a spy movie. Inside the hidden room, Luo Xiao found Ling Qiu waiting, but he was confused why the supposed witness wasn't there. That's when Yuan Jin suddenly dropped to his knees and started crying like a baby, calling Luo Xiao his young master. Internally, Luo Xiao was probably thinking, great, another person with a secret script I haven't read yet. Yuan Jin explained that he was one of the 4 deacons who served Luo Xiao's father before a massive tragedy ruined the family. He had spent years wandering the country as a penniless traveler before starting this zither club to keep tabs on the world. Luo Xiao tried to play it cool and claimed he was just an orphan from the Liu Guang pagoda. But the old man wasn't buying the act. He dropped a massive lore bomb explaining that Luo Xiao was a miracle baby who stayed in the womb for 13 months. He was born with a distinct red birthmark on his forehead, which apparently marked him for greatness or disaster. A celestial master had predicted a massive tragedy for the family and urged his parents to send him away for his own safety until he turned 16. The late masters had been heartbroken but had no choice but to put their baby in a basket and watch from afar as a monk took him away. They used to visit the pagoda just to catch a glimpse of him, but they never had the courage to admit he was their son. Yuan Jin had been assigned to take care of the second young master, while other deacons watched over the pagoda errands. Even though Luo Xiao didn't grow up in the family home, the loyalists still viewed him as the rightful head of the clan. Luo Xiao sat there looking like a brooding model while sipping his tea, clearly processing the heavy trauma dump he had just received. He acknowledged that his parents died in hatred and vowed that he wouldn't turn a blind eye to their past. However, he wasn't interested in the throne and told the deacons that his little brother could be the head of the family once they found him. For now, the most important thing on the agenda was saving a guy named Yuan Nai as soon as possible. While they were busy plotting in the back, a new customer arrived at the front of the shop and interrupted the sleepy clerk again. A mysterious man dressed in high-end black and gold armor with a mask walked in, looking like a final boss. He didn't want any recommendations or small talk from the flustered girl at the desk. He revealed that he had pre-ordered a zither from the store